Welcome to Movie of the Year, the only podcast that has the science and the screaming to unequivocally determine what the best movie is of any given year. I'm your host, Mike Gravano, and this year is 1996, so have just one sweet day, ring those bells of Notre Dame, and steal that Oscar from Jeffrey Rush. Before I introduce this week's panelists, know that this show is also a game in which points are awarded for well-made arguments, cogent thoughts about the film, jokes, and anything else I feel like awarding. The winner will be my best friend for a week and have gloating rights. So, Real Talk listeners, I got fired from my last podcast, but then said, who's coming with me? And this is who showed up. First, we have Ryan.
Say what I asked you to say, please. I asked you to say, show me the Ryan, please.
Show me the Ryan.
Hey, Mike, I'm here. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited.
Show me the Greg.
Thanks, Mike. But what I actually asked you to yell for me was, I love black people. So if you could just yell that right now.
I do love black people. I have no problem saying that. I don't know why you think that would trip me up. You're a weirdo.
Well, I said to yell it.
Yeah, okay. That was yelling. I love black people. There you go, Greg.
Now I have something to put at the beginning of the show.
Melinda, is there a quote you want me to reference you in from the movie before I introduce you?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm already thinking about all the quotes. But it could be, but you know, Mike, you can.
The human Melinda weighs 8 pounds.
I only weigh 8 pounds. Yeah,
right. You had me at Melinda. Melinda Clarke is here.
That's what I was gonna say.
Good.
Oh,
good one.
Hi.
CG, give me one for you.
I don't know.
We're gonna need a bigger CG.
It's a pretty quotable movie. I'm just gonna say.
CG is the
I don't know.
CG is the Quan.
I'm the Quan. CG is the Quan.
And CG is the Quan. It's been a minute since I've hosted a show. We've been doing Best of 2024, and now I have the reins back. And you know, it's going to be a little chaotic, but isn't that what you all love? Melinda Clarke, CG Mirich, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us back.
Yeah, out of retirement.
Out of retirement. You're like, we're done podcasting. But we said, one more show.
One more.
But I mean, only for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't call it a comeback, although technically it is true.
Yeah.
That is a comeback.
We've come back. CG, we're back.
We're here today to talk about one of the most quoted movies in cinematic history. 1996's Cameron Crowe's, Tom Cruise's, Renée Zellweger's, Maguire. Before we dive in, let's just start from the top, like your human history with it, your personal vibes. Melinda, what's Jerry Maguire mean to you?
Oh boy, so it's so interesting. CG, I know you weren't born yet, but I was trying to think, you know, it came out in December.
The face Greg just made.
Just a rude thing to say.
Wow.
About a movie from when I was in high school. It felt like a personal shot at my age.
What the hell?
No, well, it's true. I mean, what were you doing, CG, in 96? But then I was trying to think of like what I was doing when this movie came out. And I think I was, while they were shooting it, I was in Spain shooting a film, and The Killer Tongue, weirdest movie ever. And then when it came out, I think I had just finished Spawn, the movie Spawn. But
yes.
I think, so at the time, you know, being an actor, this movie, rewatching it last night, it's an interesting thing when I think about watching it back then. There's this idea that I remember thinking that I didn't quite get everything. I didn't get the nuance that I get now, and I think it's because Cameron Crowe does such refreshing new spins on the genre. I don't think it's a traditional rom-com. I don't think but also the fact that Renée Zellweger and I are the same age, you're always like, oh my God, it was the biggest story around with my friends, the peers, the thespians, was like this girl that Tom Cruise picked. And she got this role that everybody in town wanted. And everybody was just so in awe. And I remember there was just such a big buzz about her, and clearly for the right reasons. But those are the memories that I have. And of course, Cuba Gooding was just remarkable. Those are, yeah.
I do want to
From
point
an
out
actor
that
point of view.
it's not always great to be the girl that Tom Cruise picked out. Sometimes that can really ruin your life. But for this, it worked out well.
Right. Good to know. Yeah.
Greg, Jerry Maguire, High school. Now we all know where you were.
I was born, but I was not doing anything as cool as being in Spain. No, but I saw this movie with my mom and my sister, which that's not the greatest group to check this movie out.
There's one scene in particular.
Yeah. I've had a lot of big feelings about this movie. I will say I was always struck by the fact that I felt like it was a romantic comedy that went past its end and into sort of like the future of the people. And I really like that. So many, even like canonical romances, they just end right when the people get together. And honestly, that's when the work starts a lot of times. And that's what this movie explores. And so I've always really liked that about it. And I agree with what Melinda said. I think that even though I liked it when I was younger, I didn't understand that it's working on a few different nuanced levels, which I saw more clearly this time around. And especially, I think, because I was prepared for the fact that it doesn't end when you would maybe think the story would end, but kind of persist past that point. So I've always kind of liked it, and I think I like it a little bit more now. I wasn't necessarily blown away. I think it's uneven, but I think that the peaks where it's at its best are amazing. I think some actors kind of struggle to find the truth in some moments of this movie. And then, yet, in addition to that, there are some scenes that are just like, I don't know, Hall of Fame scenes, right? That we'll remember forever. And I don't think that our memories paint those scenes as better than they are. I think, honestly, when you watch him like walk in and declare his love for her at the end, that scene holds up. That scene is, I think, amazing and belongs in the Hall of Fame. So.
It completes the movie.
Oh, right.
Thank you.
Yeah, like any scene or line that is, referenced across pop culture, it becomes a copy of a copy of a copy.
Yes.
And the original power of that moment gets drained for sure.
But yet, I think like it comes alive again when you actually watch.
That's what I mean. Like, it doesn't drain it from the original. It's when you go back to the original, you're like, oh, I thought this was cheesy. It's because you're remembering your stupid friends or SNL doing it.
I tell this story a couple times, but like I remember the first time I saw The David in person, and I was like, you think like you've seen The David, but then you stand in front of The David and you're like, no, I have you can't.
You mean the statue or my brother?
You're a cool brother, of course. But that's what this movie is like. Like, you think you can remember the artistry that goes into some of the scenes, but it's actually, when you watch them, it's even better. It's like
the David of movies.
It's like the David, Ryan.
Cultured fuck. CG, what is your personal history with Jerry Maguire? Knowing we all now know that you could not have seen it when it originally came out.
I was just an idea when it aired. Just floating around. I probably wasn't an idea. I probably was a far off thought, actually. I watched it, I think, in high school, maybe in college for the first time. But when I was watching it last night, I realized I remembered nothing about the movie. Like, it was just, I get it confused with Bridget Jones' Diary.
Hell yeah.
Like, I get them, like, I'm like, wait, no, I swear this is a different guy. But anyways, I don't know. I think there were some really high highs and also some moments that were really low. And I was like, this movie's kind of bad. But then there were times where I was like, this movie's fucking awesome.
I think that's totally how it feels to watch
I had my moments. There were times where I was like, this is just not going well. Like, I'm just not into it. And then there were moments where I'm like glued to my screen and I like can't move.
I think it builds. I think the movie has momentum, and the deeper into the movie you get, the better almost every part of it gets. But I do think that there's a lot of finding it early on.
Yeah.
A lot of like people like scenes that just aren't coming together quite right.
For sure.
I think that CG, when I was thinking about you watching it, and I thought CG is, to me, and I could be, correct me if I'm wrong, are you a Dorothy? That how she says, meaning like, I deserve to be loved more than you're giving me.
Oh, for sure. I'd rather be single and alone than be in a bad relationship.
It's weird that would be the character that you relate to the most, because weren't you CG? You were named, that stands for Cuba Gooding. And so you would think Rod Tidwell would be the person you...
Yeah. I do think I am a little bit more sister personality. Like, if you
Bonnie Hunt, give it up.
Bonnie Hunt.
Yeah.
Bonnie Hunt crew.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting rom-com because, if you think about Cameron Crowe's other, Say Anything or Singles and such, it's it's an adult rom-com.
Yeah.
It's as opposed to like what you were saying, Greg, that it has this nuance that didn't really affect me until I was this age. Like I had a different experience watching it last night than I did back, and I've seen it a number of times. But I think there's just, I remember so many moments of it. So he's an agent, and I just wasn't getting all of that first full introduction to the film. I remember thinking, what's going on? And not really understanding when I was in my 20s what the nuances of what he did. And I don't think a lot of people in society even understood sports agents. And from what I read, sports agency or people involving themselves in that, it definitely went up. The percentage of people interested in being a sports agent went up. It could have happened anyway.
When I finished this movie, I went to bed being like, do I want to be a sports agent?
I could do this job.
Like,
That's
is
a weird
that
lesson to learn after watching this.
very much in the age of like, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? I went to bed a little bit drunk. I was like, I should be a sports agent. That's like a cool job.
Yeah.
I went to bed thinking something similar but different, which is, should I start hijacking the pootie? I think that's gonna be
Do not do that, Ryan.
Sorry,
Right.
I learned the wrong lesson.
There's a more nuanced message about shoplifting the booty.
Stop lifting. I'm sorry.
You know what I wanted to do? I want to start calling my cell phone a porty. Do you
Yeah, dude.
Let's try to
He
make
goes, is that your
slang.
porty or mine?
That should have stuck. That should have been like fetch. We should still be
I didn't
saying
even
that.
pick up on that. That's what they called their phones.
Adam, my husband, and I were watching. He goes, did he just call that a porty as in a portable phone? My husband just kept commenting on the technology for him because he's a little bit younger, and he was like, oh my gosh,
Like when Tom
cassette
Cruise
tape.
is like, I got to get to the office. We got an important fax coming
Yeah,
in
the
today.
just be waiting for the fact.
then
Yeah,
they all
when they were
gather
sitting
around
there watching the facts coming out. It's like, this is dated.
Raw guy.
Yes.
Personal history other than you. We haven't started yet. This is still all the intro.
I bet you thought he was going to just go to break there, huh?
I'm
don't
not
need
that
to
kind of guy. I know how much this means to you because for years you had a voicemail about Jerry Maguire.
Oh.
But tell them, not about the voicemail, what this movie means.
Wait, I want to know about the voicemail.
Do you even remember how it went, Ryan?
I
do.
don't. Mike does.
Yeah,
It's
do
because
it.
it's when
Mike,
we
do
met, so it's when we called a lot. It was like I wasn't gonna T9 text Ryan all the
Yeah.
time, and it's and I think this is a pitch perfect impression of, "Hi, this is Jerry Maguire. Show me the message," and that was it. That was
in his drunken state.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That's
Yeah. The manic, drunken, sunglass wearing.
Yeah, this movie, I mean, let me put it this way, Mike. When this movie came out, I was like, show me the movie. Because I had not seen it yet, and I wanted to watch it. And then after I did, I liked it. It was good.
all right. We're gonna take the quickest breaks, and when we come back, really dig
That
into
was so
this movie.
detailed.
Hot off of trying to show the world the romance and comedy of the grunge scene in singles, old Cammy Crowe decided to turn his eye to the world of sports agents. Jerry Maguire is based on a real dude, apparently, and a real mission memo Jeffrey Katzenberg sent around Disney. It's the heartwarming tale of a midlife crisis manic episode inspiring Tom Cruise's Jerry to want to focus on less clients, less money, which does lead him to get fired from the company he helped build. On his way out, he's accompanied by the widow Dorothy, played by Renée Zellweger, because she was inspired by the ravings. He's now their one client is Cuba, received with an attitude Rod Tidwell, and they are constantly hounded by Jay Moore's sniveling rival agent. And of course, the two sort of use each other / fall in love. The wedding isn't what ends this movie, so I guess it's not a comedy. But it is at times romantic while delivering into loyalty, friendship, and the meaning of life, and how much a goddamn human head weighs. Taste buds, I ask you this. Looking back on the movie, it's an archipelago of iconic scenes, gags. Does it make sense that the movie became a huge hit with half a dozen truly iconic moments? Why did it hit so hard? And does it still manage to resonate emotionally, even though we have lived through 3 decades of spoofs and references to these lines?
Was that a question?
It was. Let's talk about. That's fair. It was a long question. How's it hold up? It was so iconic. Does it live beyond the iconography?
I say yes. I'm a big vote for yes. That not all things aged equally well. I think that there are some groaners in this movie, and perhaps like years of them being made fun of has made them seem unusual or weird. But I will say this: when Rod Tidwell is about to first deliver the "Show me the money" line, the character understands the life the line is going to have. The movie makes so much space for him to undersell it the first time he does it, and then to build it up. And it's like literally the movie knows it is changing pop culture forever when it's doing that. And that sort of retroactive, like forward-looking iconography, I thought was interesting for that line. And some of the other like iconic parts are iconic because they're like exceptionally well written, exceptionally well acted, important moments at pivotal times in the movie. And so we remember them because of the high quality of them, and that high quality still exists in the original movie.
In a weird way, it's like a very, very, very early producer of memes. There's so many like memes that came out, and if you take memes just on their face, they're always corny. There's a movie I like a lot called Marriage Story that has a scene with Adam Driver punching a wall that became a joke on the internet because it's so dumb out of context. But if you watch it in the movie, it hits really hard. And that's what Cameron Crowe is able to do, is he's able to, around these iconic lines, make you believe that a human being would actually say this shit. And I think that's so impressive.
I wrote down extremely iconic. Almost every single scene feels iconic and fresh. And this was right after I watched it. And I thought, why does it still feel so fresh to me? And because I don't think even at the time it hadn't been done. And like I said, it's a new spin on on a traditional genre. But I could go through every scene and I could pick one iconic moment, look, thing, because there was so much. You were talking about the "Show me the money," that a lot of that was improv, and how he delivered it and how they put it together. And I think there's this, we're going to be discussing the idea that, like Josh Schwartz, Cameron Crowe was creating pop culture, not reflecting it. And that's, to me, why things maintain or have the longevity that they do. But I kept thinking, like, what's the most iconic? You're saying half a dozen, but I can find so many personally that to me were iconic. And even how do you say his name? Lipnicki?
Jonathan.
Yeah.
That's how you pronounce it.
But a lot of that stuff was just him saying stuff, a director who's so flexible to pick up and just play. And the relationship, like even just the Jerry and Ray sitting on the couch, and he's finally talking almost, and he's like, nobody wants to talk to me, and nobody listens to me. And he's finally doing this thing, this intimacy, and Ray just wants to go to the zoo, and
he's talking to a literal child.
Yeah.
The kid is like, could I talk about my dead dad? And he's like, let me time out there, kiddo.
Yeah, right.
We're kind of dealing with my stuff now. I know you don't have adult conversations, but I'm talking about what's up with me. And for you to just pop in and start talking about your dead dad, I don't know. It seems like a vibe shift.
Ray wants to go to the zoo, and then Cameron Crowe later made We Bought a Zoo.
I know.
Right.
Oh my God.
Dream come
awesome.
true.
Another line that, like, Mindy, you were talking about is, there's the 5 or 6 lines that everyone knows, but the scene that always gets me is Dorothy in the pseudo breakup scene of here's a guy who loves my son, and he sure does like me a whole lot.
Yeah.
Yep.
Crushing. Like, that's Dorothy Boyd right there. She's the one doing the breakup because she's the only one that has the wherewithal and balls to do it, to face alone time. And that line right there is not quoted a ton, but I think everyone knows what that line is from. Every scene has a line like that.
You're exactly right. And when I was talking about, of course, like the most famous moments that everyone talks about, that's exactly the scene I was thinking about, because I hadn't remembered it. But if you're watching with attention, that was one of the most moving moments. And you think, God, she's so much stronger than we thought she was from the beginning. We see this woman, when she says, I'm the oldest 26-year-old, I'm doing everything right. And we see the strength behind, she'd rather be hurt than allow him to continue. And, and it's also a very smart move. It's like, see what you're missing. She doesn't know that, but she's also taking that gamble that let something free. If it comes back, it's meant to be.
And she's also trying to avoid like 10 years of slow decline as well, right? She'd rather have the rupture in the moment than for everything to just become like slightly worse every day until it's so bad that then they know they're supposed to turn away from it. And by risking the cutting it off at that point and just letting things be gone forever, that's what lets them like actually become stronger. Like you said, by letting go, she's able to like get what she needs.
I would do the slow decline, no problem, if he was rich. This motherfucker's poor, so no. Hit the bricks.
He's very dynamic,
though. She kept saying the things. She kept repeating that memo was so inspiring. That memo was so inspiring, and he because it didn't resonate the way he thought, even though it was coming from pure heart, he can't get around the fact that that's exactly why she's there, and he can't actually be the man that's trying to get out, and ultimately I mean, just so many great moments. Every single scene, like I said, I could pick something out. When Bonnie Hunt and Renee are talking and he's overhearing them talk about him.
Yes.
And he's like, and I love him for the man he could be. Like, she's wise beyond words.
And I love him for the man he almost is.
Almost is. Yeah.
I kept coming back to the fact that her name is Dorothy. And wondering if there's not supposed to be that like sort of Wizard of Oz, like, you know,
or as Mike calls her, the Widow Dorothy.
The Widow Dorothy Boyd. What part of what I liked about watching this movie this time around though is almost like the obverse of what you're talking about, Mike, which is we like to see the iconic scenes over and over and over again, but because some parts of this are so much in the foreground of our memory of the movie, there's a lot there that like I almost forgot, like the Jerry O'Connell and his stuff with his dad, Cush and Cush Senior. That was very interesting to see. And one of the things I definitely forgot it was interesting to see was that Regina King is like all over this movie. Regina King does not take a scene off. There's never a time where Regina King is trying to find what's going on or get better.
The king is a queen. Would you say it?
She's the woman king, dude. She seriously is. So like. And I had forgotten she was in this movie somehow. And yet it's like she's so dynamic and real in it. And so there is the other side of the iconic side of it, which is like you can sometimes sort of forget what else is in there. And in this movie, part of what I forgot was that a lot of it's very neat. Like it's neatly made. That his whole like folly with writing out this, he lets his heart cause him to write out this whole manifesto. And as soon as he sends it out, one of my favorite parts of the movie is like, hey, Jerry Maguire here. Did you send out that thing I wrote? And obviously they're like, yes. And he's like, oh, good. But he's letting his heart cash a check there that then, or like write a check that his mind is going to have to cash later. And in that same way, that so nicely sets up and foregrounds the relationship, which is they let their hearts be stupid and get them into a complete mess. And then they start like doing the hard work. And so I liked that message of like it's romance married to the actual like pick and shovel work you have to do as someone in a relationship.
Fast Times, Say Anything, Singles, Almost Famous. You're describing all of those movies.
Yeah.
It's a murder of crows. Like I would say there's all of those are doing that same thing of let's go a little bit deeper than what the surface level Hollywood movie would show you as far as relationships go.
And yet I think you can come out of them being like, that was just a good time at the movies. So like he's able to kind of walk in both those worlds very effectively. When I was a kid, I didn't think about the deeper significance of this movie that much. I just liked it. I had a fun time. There's a lot of good parts, a lot of funny parts, and a lot of emotional parts. But now watching it again, it's like, oh wow, there's this whole other reality of this movie that's there for, you know, people that are fans of Cameron Crowe or just film in general.
You hit the nail on the head for me, because when I kept thinking when I was younger, like, why didn't I get all of that nuance? Because it's like they set up this issue. I remember being younger, and the scene with Jay Moore where he fires him was just so uncomfortable. It's like he's getting fired, but I don't know why. Like a very, very visceral memory of not understanding like what just happened.
And you can see Tom Cruise. You can see him be like, "Oh, I've done this to so many women." Like he's breaking up with me the way I break up with women all the time.
Yeah. No, and just the impact of, you know, I used to be more impacted by, oh, he's losing his job and his money and everything, but as an adult who's gone through a lot more life, I understand that family is everything moment. Like that tugs at me more than when I was younger in my 20s, when we're a little bit more in our own selfish worlds, you know.
There's this part in Almost Famous when they talk about the album Pet Sounds by Beach Boys and how when you're young, it is just cheesy ass Beach Boy songs. But when you are older and you've gone through heartbreak,
Yeah.
the album completely changes. Like
Yeah.
now it all clicks together. And I think that's what so much of it is that 30 years later, most of us are all 30 years older.
On the other side of 35.
Yeah. And now those things like his stress face at his own wedding. And
Yes.
that's the kind of shit like,
how much that hurts.
yeah, and how, my marriage is perfect, but other people might have done that at their own wedding that I've been at.
I mean, that's the moment where he's like on the phone being like, hey, how's the marriage going? Are we definitely going to get married? Okay, good. Great. Let's do it.
CG, you're Dorothy's age, essentially, a year younger.
Yeah, you're younger. Imagine me with a kid right now.
No,
You're like the oldest 25-year-old there has ever been?
No. Probably one of the younger 25-year-olds there's ever been.
She's
I
a
mean,
Peter
got
Pan.
shit figured out.
25 in 1996
Different.
was a different
Old.
thing than 25 is in
Yeah.
2025.
It'll be 36. That's the difference. I think it's at least 10 years
literally.
later.
And
I think I like
Enjoy
what
it.
all of you guys are saying. Oh yeah. Can Greg stop talking for like 1 second?
Yes, 8 points to CG.
I really like what all of you are saying, and I think that maybe because this isn't meant to age anyone, but because I'm younger and I don't have the same experiences, I guess I saw the movie in kind of a different way because I don't have the same life experiences that you do. But everything you're saying about every scene and all the quotable things, that's all I totally agree with. But I think I had some different perspectives on their love story. Maybe it's like a generation thing. Like I was personally a little cringed out with a lot of their love story and wasn't super like buying into it until the end. Like the whole time I was a little bit like, why are they doing this? Like it doesn't really make sense. It kind of just seems like they jumped into this and but I guess that's the point of it. But I was a little like, I don't know. It was giving me the cringe feeling. Like I just like, ooh, why are they doing this right now? Like
I had the
healthy.
same thing.
Yeah.
I didn't think that they were like in love and why are they doing this? But I do remember the scene where he pulls the glasses down and sees the tears in her eyes. That for us as actors and we're like, oh my God, like for some reason that was part of the trailer or that's how they promoted it. And it was like, it was some one of the most iconic moments. And it was less iconic when I watched it last night for some
watching
reason.
it for me, I was like, girl, no.
Right,
no.
like Bonnie Hunt.
We're
like
all Bonnie Hunt.
Yeah.
Like, no, are you? I wanted to scream at Dorothy. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, this guy does not love you. You just want to get married because you love him. Like, what? It's like, open your eyes. Open your eyes. So
No, I think you got it.
I was a
CG.
little angry last night. I was like, is this...
I think that when we watched it back then, we were so enamored by the highlights, and that's what we remember. But no, I think that
Right.
I think everyone watching this movie is Bonnie Hunt for sure.
Yeah.
And we get to watch her watch it. Like one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when she turns on the rom-com and she's watching the moving scene outside of her window and she's cheering at it like an audience member, like, or booing it, like,
She's like,
no, get back in the
car.
truck, get back in the truck.
Get in the
You know,
car.
that's how we watch these movies as well.
That's how we were all talking too.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
All right.
Anna leaving Newport Beach. Go. It's just
This
like,
is best for you. Yes. All right, we have to take the quickest of breaks. And when we come back, we're going to visit a little mountain.
Mount Rushmore.
Ah, Mount Rushmore. It's been so long since we got to visit that hallowed site of the 4 biggest headed presidents. But that's not what we're here to do today. Today, we're going to be talking about the 4 biggest headed hot boys of 1996. We, of course, are going to get submissions from all of you, and we'll see if they go into the trash pile or their faces get carved into stone forever. Ryan, starting with you, who do you think needs to be on this Hot Boy Mountain?
Oh my gosh, Mike, this is an all-time slammy D, slam dunk. And it comes down to arithmetic. It's something plus something. And it doesn't matter what that other thing is because it's Romeo plus whatever. It's Leo. Leonardo DiCaprio, don't know if you've heard of him, was the hottest hot boy, maybe in history in this year, but definitely of 1996.
A plus, I agree.
So rarely precedent. I can't say unprecedented because it has happened before, but it does happen rarely. Leo on the mountain.
All right.
Floppy hair.
Oh, the 90s hair where it's the part down the middle and then just the front just hangs down for days.
And we all agree it's the What's Eating Gilbert Grape one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Romeo.
I don't agree. I never agreed with Leo, but I think it's because I'm older than him or something. I don't know.
Do you guys know the meme where it's like, no, don't turn 25, you're so sexy? Because Leonardo DiCaprio apparently won't date anyone over the age of 25.
Yep.
My friends put that meme on my birthday cake this year. Because I turned 25. So, sorry, Leo.
You missed your chance.
Sorry.
Melinda, you disagree with Leo. Who do you think needs to be on here?
All five of my...
No, just we'll do one at a time. One at a time.
My number one, Brad Pitt.
All right. What was Brad Pitt doing around this era?
This is between Legends of the Fall, which is an all-timer,
Good one.
hot dude movie. And
Was Legends of the Fall coming? Did it come out in 96?
that was, I think, 94. And then 12 Monkeys was 95.
95. Okay, but what about 7 was earlier. Was that earlier or after?
That's 97. I mean, I don't know what movie he had this year, but he's a hot man.
Yeah, I mean, I think
I was just curious. That was a gotcha.
Interview with a Vampire. I mean, it's like everything we just named was just, I mean, even Fight Club was a little bit later than that, right? Yeah.
Thelma and Louise.
This is still very long-haired.
He's just 90s. I mean, Legends of the Fall, CG, have you seen that? Oh my God.
Well, I guess we'll do a podcast about that, so CG has to watch it on the bathroom floor sometimes.
Okay.
The music, I actually have the soundtrack and I just play it in the background and cry. Anyway, I love it.
I agree with Brad Pitt.
All right, CG, give us one of yours.
I feel like this is not gonna be a crowd favorite, but he just does it for me. Paul Rudd.
Oh, how old was he then?
He was on
20...
Friends. He was Phoebe Buffay's husband or whatever.
Interesting.
Mike. His name was Mike in Friends.
Yes.
Something to think about.
And then this is
what
just
year
after
was
Clueless.
Yeah.
What year was Clueless?
95.
There you go. So
So he looked exactly like he does now.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. It's so infuriating.
He hasn't aged at all.
All right, Greg, who you got?
All right. We have talked about this movie. 1996 gives us wearing a little belly shirt in what's the movie that he's in? Ewan McGregor. And now
Trainspotting.
Trainspotting. There we go.
Oh,
Ewan
wow.
McGregor from Trainspotting.
He does wear a cute little belly shirt.
He does. It works for me. And he's got that Scottish accent. And,
Don't you think he's a little hotter though? Like a year later when he has the rat tail off the side of his head.
well, that's also a very nice look. The Padawan look.
It's not. I was being facetious. You
You set me up for that. Now I feel the fool.
All right. So far, Leo's. I'm just because I haven't been saying Leo's on the mountain. The rest are on the maybe pile for now. Ryan, who you got?
Look, Mike, I'm nothing but a competitor, and I know who my host is. And so I'm going to say that one of the hot boys of 1996 was, I think we can all agree, the star of Boy Meets World. It's Ryder Strong, with equally great 90s hair to Leo.
The most 90s of hair.
The most 90s of names.
Yeah, great.
My name is Ryder Strong.
Ryder's on the strong.
Oh, that's funny.
Just because I feel like I can't just keep playing favorites. So Ryder's on the maybe pile for now. Cindy, give me another one of yours.
Well, okay. The fact that the movie we're talking about today, he's the highest paid movie star at the time. He just come off of Mission Impossible, right? And Tom Cruise was hot, and he was nominated for this. And didn't he win the Golden Globe for Jerry Maguire? So I'm just going to throw Tom Cruise into there because he was hot this year.
There's a lot of people who say this is his hottest in any movie.
It's his most romantic. I kept trying to think. I'm like, he doesn't go to the rom-com. I mean, he did. There is the scene in Top Gun, which is one of the only like love scenes that I actually like.
Yeah.
But although I thought the one here was a little bit cringy because that was important.
Yeah. So gross.
But I'm throwing Tom Cruise in there because of the year, and he was a bigger star than Leo to me. And
Tom Cruise is going right on this mountain because not only you got Mission Impossible, you got Jerry Maguire, but I think you're right. And this also might be the last year he plays humans. He will only play variations of Ethan Hunt from now on after this year. And that's not hot. But vulnerability and weirdness and like all that is intriguing in a way.
He understands that if you're going to show up drunk to a girl's house, that is your employee. Wear those wraparound sunglasses, man.
Oh yeah,
that's 90.
That whole sequence was one of my favorites when he's like, "Oh my god," on the plane with Cuba.
This whole movie is
Rod.
that meme where the attractive guy is like hanging his head in a cubicle and goes like, "Hey, we should get drinks after."
Yes,
and she's like, "Ooh," and then the other panel where it's like the overweight, frumpy-looking guy, and he does it, and she calls HR. That scene is they're like talking about how you can't just show up. That's the weirdest thing to do. And then he pops up, and they're all like, "Oh."
Except CG, who you got?
Who do I want to go with next? I have two. I think I'm gonna throw Johnny Depp out there because I think he was in his prime in this era. He was good looking at this time.
Not now.
And
No.
Ryan, as our historian, what was Johnny Depp up to in 1996?
Fewer scarves. So that's good.
Oh,
that's
is
in
hot,
CG's favor.
Fewer rings.
But I think this is like the weird drama, like Nick of Time and sort of trying to become a Hollywood star before he gets weird again. So haircuts and just like looking all classy.
He had the same kind of like Leo kind of hair. Middle part would kind of flop to the side. Yeah, do the little flop to the side.
The hair antlers.
Yeah, this is in between Nick of Time and Donnie Brasco.
You're right.
Okay.
But yeah. I'm looking at it too. Donnie Brasco comes out of here later. So yeah, he was getting into his teens. He's definitely is hot in my opinion too. I agree.
Still?
Greg, who you got?
Oh. It's an acquired taste now.
I would say not. With apologies to TikTok, I'm going to say no. If you were anything like me in 1996, which I certainly was, you were tuning in every night that you could for 90210 Beverly Hills. And if you're talking hot boys, you've got a few choices there. And so ultimately, everybody has to, for themselves, make their own choice, who is first and foremost. But
Nat from Peach Pit.
For me, that's a good choice. For me, it's got to be Luke Perry. You have to go with
R.I.P.
Luke Perry, R.I.P. Dylan, just the model of like squinting, kind of semi-damaged, like so beautiful, like won't somebody save me because I'm like a mess, but maybe if you straightened me out a little bit, you would like find something that that nobody else even knew existed inside me because it's like hinted at, but I just need to be loved into like the perfect version of like, you know, a heartthrob. I could be transformed by love into something better, and you see that in like his damage and in his beauty.
A lot of people give George Clooney credit for this, but it's actually Luke Perry who I think made famous the acting thing of just tilt your head like a confused dog.
And squint
yeah.
at it.
What? And then you can like cut entire pages of dialogue.
His character is like the two most attractive women in his high school are best friends and like fighting for him all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And she sort of squints at the whole situation. Like, oh,
yeah, wouldn't you be baffled as a high schooler?
it's so hard to choose.
I would be very confused.
Especially if I were like 27 in high school. Then I'd be really confused.
All right. Speed right now, so I'm going to just say your name and give me one. Ryan.
Oh, Mike, I'm going to go with Devon Sawa, still hot off that Casper juju.
Jojo Sawa's dead?
Yes.
Melinda.
I'm going to say Val Kilmer because of Batman, Heat, and The Doors, and all of those, and The Saint, all of those films, and Willow.
Always Willow.
CG.
John Stamos.
Oh,
yeah.
The year after Full House ended.
Have mercy. And Greg, your last.
Because this may be my only chance to do it, shout out David Duchovny. David Duchovny on X-Files, being a weird little hottie for the freaks out there.
I do have to tell you that all my girlfriends in high school, not all of them, but one in particular, but we all agreed Rob Lowe was the bomb. But that was that.
How could we forget Rob Lowe?
Oh,
Beautiful Rob Lowe.
No, CG wants to replace
Rob
something.
Lowe.
You want to replace John Stamos with Rob Lowe?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I knew I was forgetting someone. Throw John Stamos out of there. Rob Lowe.
Stamos.
Oh, I love Rob Lowe.
When
All
CG
right.
was saying John Stamos, I thought for sure she was about to say John C. Riley, and I was going to support that
hell
still.
yeah.
96? Hell yeah.
Hey,
All right.
CG and I looked up at one list just for fun, and she's like, "Mom, this list has William H. Macy on it." And I'm like, "I think his career had some heat, not hot. The career
No.
was hot."
Fargo.
I have
He
so
would-
many
he would get
teen
hot
beats with
shameless.
William H. Macy
It
on
was
it.
IMDb's hottest men of the 90s, and he
Okay.
was on it. And I was like, that's not right.
CG, he wouldn't
should
kill
not.
you, but he would hire people to kill
Mhm.
you. I don't know if
That's
that helps.
hot.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, a degree of separation. Currently on your mountain is Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Cruise. Your maybe pile, is Brad Pitt, Paul Rudd, Ewan McGregor, Ryder Strong, Johnny Depp, Luke Perry, Devon Sawa, Val Kilmer, not Jonathan Stamos. Instead, it's now Rob Lowe and David Duchovny. So your official Hot Boys of 1996, doing the math, crunching the numbers. It's Leo, it's Cruise, it's Ryder Strong, and it's Val Kilmer.
Nice.
Congratulations
predicted.
to all of you.
I don't
we're gonna
actually know who Ryder Strong is.
You know, one of my other ones was Keanu Reeves.
Ah,
So-
good. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it's a good choice.
Okay, we're going to take the quickest break so CG can look up who Ryder Strong is. And when we come back, really dive in to Jerry Maguire. Taste Buds, this is one of the all-time great romantic comedies. And we've touched on it a little, but what's unique? What is unique about its message on love and romance? And how comedy is it really?
It's funny but very grounded, right? I mean, a lot of famous rom-coms, I think, get a little cartoonish in their comedy, but I think that this is much more realistic. Everybody's real world funny, which I think is a refreshing change.
Like they're making jokes and people are reacting to them. Like
Exactly,
they're
yeah.
funny, yeah.
I completely agree. I mean, you have Bonnie Hunt there for the one-liners to kind of ground it in and to be the observer of what's, but with irony and sarcasm. But it was interesting that at the end of the movie, I thought, is this really categorized in the genre of rom-com? And I didn't come away from it thinking of it being rom-com. But then I had to actually think about the moments, just because it really is a dramedy
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
with a little humor, in my opinion. Yeah.
I think they hit all points of comedy, like you said, with like the one-liners, and then Cuba Gooding doing like the really outward, insane kind of comedy. And then you have kind of that ironic comedy with all of the situations that keeps happening. I think it's very subtly like a rom-com or dramedy. Like they don't do a lot of outward comedic things, it's woven in to be really natural.
There's no Fairley Brothers or like, even Fast Times. Even Fast Times was, Fast Times still was grounded in a lot of reality.
But yeah, they put theirs all into Spicoli. They're like, all right,
Right.
grounded movie except for this cartoon.
Right.
I feel like it is interesting, the like physical comedy that Tom Cruise does. I feel like he's got like a different kind of physical vocabulary here, and it's almost analogous to me for like Jim Carrey. He's doing a lot of really big body movements, and I thought like maybe on a simple level, but I thought that was kind of funny. Like his sort of pantomime is very funny in this. Everything about his body language.
One thing that backs up your point, but is also the funniest part in the movie, is how low would a lamp have to be hanging down in a house
dude.
for Tom Cruise to hit his head?
You know what it is? I bet
That many times.
Like it would have had to be 5 feet tall.
Yeah.
I bet they
It's-
have an extension for their table. And if you had that extension out, the table might move out from under the...
Mhm.
Or
I
maybe
had a
he was
whole-
wearing lifts in his shoes.
He absolutely. You can see there's one part where
He
he's sitting
totally
down,
does that.
and he's wearing platform shoes, essentially.
Yeah. Well, and I had a whole backstory to, it's funny, but they had just moved the dining room table.
Yeah.
So they were in the middle of rearranging furniture, and it was just, because
Take out the leaves, right? Though,
We've all done it.
to return to the romance part, Mike, part of what I thought was so interesting about it is I didn't realize, I think when I saw this as a kid, how much it's like a romance of between Tom Cruise and the kid. And I don't mean that obviously in a weird way. Like, he falls in love with this kid, and then he's like, well, the lady comes with the kid, so obviously I love her. But it's like, that's what he's thinking of when they're breaking up. He's like, oh man, the kid, like, okay, I'll come by and I'll take him to the zoo and everything. And later he realizes, no, actually it's her. Like, I miss her in this moment. You know, I wish she were here to hug me about it. But watching him like fall for this kid was a very effective moment.
Yeah.
There's another one too where, and I don't want to get all podcasty here, but like, I think that this is an incredibly romantic movie about two dudes falling in love.
Yes.
You know, and Rod is in love with his wife, so more so than any other movie character in maybe history. But watching these two guys fall for each other is, I think, absolutely the most charisma in the movie and the most romance. They are opposite, and they're coming together in the way that classically the two lovers of the movie would. And I'm so sorry I used that L word, but I think
I like that.
they're it.
I think it worked there.
No,
I completely agree. That scene, like after Rod's big game where they're hugging there, that I think the romance between Dorothy and Jerry really was like third, fourth tier romance. Like, and like, not the actual romance you're like kind of rooting for. Like, this is like you said, like his relationship with the kid, his relationship with Rod is like much more like gives you the feels and you want to root for that. Whereas the two of them, you're like, okay,
well, it's
like,
not a traditional. Okay. Yeah, I love that it's not traditional. And when they're witnessing Rod and his wife just as they're eating crab, I love you so much, and he leans over and he tries to give her a kiss on the hand. That's so cringy. You're like, oh God. And he says it. He says that the theme is, I'm really good at friendships. I'm not intimate. But then, is he really good at friendships? Because
he sucks at friendships.
And it was, you know, so when they start saying as a friend, and you've got Cuba to be the voice of reason to say, you're not going to mess around with a single woman. You stole the, what is it? You stole the pootie. You
shoplifted the pootie.
Shoplifted the pootie. And he's like, fine, yeah, I did. And he didn't even realize that he'd done that. But then they tell each other hard truths and then still show up for each other. And I think that experience, we don't always see that with the male friendships in films. And it really, really does pay off in a way that it's Jerry Maguire has this thing that's trying to come out, and yet he's trying to still kind of maintain the old Jerry Maguire, like hold on to everything when he's out there still trying to be an agent. But what ends up manifesting is something that's really organic, and it feels so much better to operate this way. When I think the old me, like in my 20s, would have been going, what the hell? He had a much better life. You know, I gotta say, one of the funniest things was Kelly Preston, because she was really good in this movie. But how funny is it that they keep seeing each other, like at the airport, or that she's saying loser, she's doing all these things, and I kept thinking, I never noticed how many times they'd run into each other. And
her job, I don't know what she does for a living, but I know it just has to do with finding out where Jerry Maguire will be and being there,
and
just
showing
so that,
up.
Just being there.
I think it's
like
just
her job's actually to torment him for the rest of his life. Yeah,
Jay Moore is paying her to show up. Yeah, and I think I was thinking about why the movie's named Jerry Maguire, and not just because Crow got lazy and couldn't think of a title, but it's because it's like Melinda, you've said so much. It's not a traditional rom-com, but it is about like this man finding the love of a community. So it's not. Romantic love is very important for sure, but the love of becoming a mentor to somebody, the love of having a friend, and he's just like, he was this isolated career-aholic, and the whole movie has been like, oh, people matter. It's not, and like, I think most movies and dumb dudes are like, oh, I'm sad, I will find somebody to be in a relationship with, and then 2 years later, they're like, I'm still sad, and that's why this movie keeps going past the wedding. It's like, that one person can't be everything for you. Here's all the different to find and cultivate in your life.
I think in a way this film follows the outline of a coming of age story, just slightly. Obviously he's not coming of age, but I think it's one of those films where he's having like I like to call it a come to Jesus moment. Like it's a long come to Jesus moment. He's realizing all these things he's been doing aren't working, and he's just been incredibly unhappy. And it takes him a long time to get there, to realize that, like literally the end of the movie. But in a way, I viewed it as like a coming of age, or like
it's an interesting thing about the idea of like what he did, because it's a sports agent is in a cynical world, and it's really competitive. So having compassion doesn't mesh, and having compassion capitalism doesn't equal compassion in the traditional sense. But I think there are those out there, and that's the whole point of this movie, is that Katzenberg, or the agent that this is based on, is saying we can do both. And I've even noticed a shift in the industry that I work in, in Hollywood and such, that I was like, what, things are nice. I've noticed that people are nicer than when I was young in the 90s. And I remember how oh God, difficult, or the way people talk down to you as a young woman, or it just feels like we're trying to, although you wouldn't think it nowadays, but I've noticed that people seem to be a little bit kinder in my industry. And I think there's something about these messages that can have a lasting impact on people.
I think people are kinder because they waited till they were 18 to watch Mean Girls. And I think that's helpful. So they don't become one. I wanted to talk about the last scene because, CG, you said that it definitely worked even if the romance throughout didn't. There's a lot of people who it's a polarizing scene because it's incredible rom-com writing, right? Or rom-dram writing. But some people are like, no, too little too late. Like, did you guys just all of a sudden buy the relationship with the last scene?
No.
She did.
He hasn't gone to therapy yet. Work will still need to happen. I don't think they're just fixed now.
Yeah. I think when he showed up, it was just reinforcing, like, he has this big success with Rod. He can't be alone. Like, the thing is, he cannot be by himself. I don't think he realizes, oh, I love her. I think he's like, shoot, I don't have anyone to celebrate this with, and she's there. So
once again, he's watching.
I guess I'll be with her to celebrate with her. Yeah. Like, I didn't think it was this great genius. Like, oh, I love her. I need her. Like, you don't think
the scene where the phone rings and he says, "Is that your Porty?" again? And he says, "Dorothy?" And he's like, "Oh no, Marcy."
But it's still like he's alone and wants someone to celebrate with.
And I don't think
it has anything to do with Dorothy as a person. I think she is a person who's there.
Yeah, I think the impetus for him doing the rom-com thing of running through the airport is watching Rod and Marcy talk. And he's like, I want that. I'm not going to earn that, but I want to do something real quick to get that. And
I guess I kind of disagree. I think this is a movie about letting yourself get into a complicated emotional situation because you're following your gut instinct or your heart. And even if that's messed up, even if it's your two damaged people just coming together in a certain way that binds you together, we can follow that moment and then do the actual work of developing a relationship. And I think maybe if we look at it non-cynically, when he goes back and he shows up, he's literally showing up. She's been dangling in front of him. If you tell me that you love me, then I just need to feel the love from you. And when he shows up, it's both the obviously I love you. You can see it in my eyes. You can see it in my face. And then also at the same time, it's and I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to say, I'm going to let you as deep inside me as I possibly can so that there is no more boundaries between us. And does that mean they are good to go forever? No, because this movie rejects that wholeheartedly. There is no romantic gesture. There is no one moment. There is nothing you can do that absolves you of having to do the actual extremely hard work of relationships. Otherwise, you're just it's just a fantasy.
So are they just going to spiral until the next romantic gesture?
They're going to work. They're going to work. They're going to ride the high of this moment until it begins to ebb, and then they are going to put their shoulders into the relationship, and they're going to give it that shove that's going to keep it going, and it's going to start rolling again, and then they're going to mind it, and then when it starts slowing down again, they're each going to put their shoulder into it, and they're going to shove it again, because no relationship has the momentum that carries it forever. It's when we have to say, like, okay, everybody out of the car, get behind it, and start shoving it and pushing it and doing the work. That's what gets you, like, to the horizon, I think.
I agree, because I think that's a really good point. Yes, it kind of wraps up in a fantastical way. Yes, here's the fantasy. He says, I love you. And then he says, and you complete me. He's never been able to say anything like that. So she says, you had me at hello. Yes. And what they're going to discover, because they've never been in a relationship like this, is that, of course, every relationship is about making sacrifices and actually being willing to do the hard work. It's not going to be a fantasy of living happily ever after. So I see where CG would be like cynical to feel like that's not going to work out. But at least they have the impetus to say, oh my gosh, this is the beginning of something. So, but
well,
yeah,
I'm not saying they're not going to work out. I think that what Greg is saying is totally right. You know, they're going to keep pushing. They want to be together, but I didn't buy the, oh my gosh, I do love her. Let me go back and tell her. I think it's more of a proximity. She's here, but I do think he loves her, but I didn't think it was like, what am I doing? You know, like
there was a moment
he just
early,
wanted someone with him.
Yeah.
There was a moment early in my relationship with my wife when we were still just like friends trending towards being a couple. And we had been like seeing each other basically every night for like 3 weeks in a row. And I had something I was going to do one night. And so we weren't going to see each other that night. And I was like, okay, well, I won't see you. You won't see me. Okay, cool. And I remember I was driving home from the thing and my cell phone rang. And I thought to myself in that moment, please, 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 please let this be her. Just like the Dorothy thing. And when I saw that it was her, I realized, holy shit, I am in love with this girl. And
that's when she broke up with you.
And that's when she was like, it's not working out. But I made a grand gesture. But so like, I buy that moment because like sometimes the world shows you what you're thinking or feeling in a way that you didn't even know. And so your phone's suddenly ringing and it could be anybody, but you realize how much you want it to be this one person. I think it shows you something.
I'll say this.
I understand that. I guess, yeah, I just haven't had that experience before, but that's
well, people do break up and they go.
And I like that. It's really cute.
People do break up. They're like, in the moment when you're in a young relationship or a new relationship and you have an argument it's painful, it's hurt. It's like, I can't do this anymore. I think we need to take some time. And it's a countless times people, the heart makes the what is it?
Distance makes
the heart grow fonder. And, it absolutely, that can happen. So
I will say this. I really hope that Ray and Rod, I hope that Ray and Rod and Marcy stay in their lives because I think that Jerry needs all three of them to bounce off of and learn how to love Dorothy the way that she deserves. Dorothy's already there.
Yeah. I think it's less so about, maybe this is my psychology degree, but like less so about them building together and he needs to figure out himself.
Yes.
And I guess that's why I don't really buy it because he's always been with someone. Like the way to figure out if like he needs to be alone, he needs to go to therapy, he needs to like learn who he is. And so I think it's less so about their relationship building and growing because Dorothy's there. It's more so him working on himself to get to that point to meet her where she's at.
All-time tiny performance is Todd Luiso as the nanny or the person. And Jerry finds him annoying at first, and then by the end, when he thinks that Dorothy is moving to San Diego, can't stop hugging him. Like Jerry's just like, I'm gonna miss you so much, buddy. Like he just has no emotion control, and it's all like every moment is the most important because he just can't determine what is what.
Yeah,
I do have to say. Go, Mike.
I don't think it's messy in the movie, but it's messy in the character of Jerry. Is like they set up very early on in the movie. Everybody's saying, "Well, Jerry can't be alone." Like there's that weird, very
I wanted to ask about that.
Party tape.
Why is that there?
Who knows?
What event was that? Who
that was,
put
I
that
think,
together?
supposed to be his bachelor party.
Who recorded the videos? Like, how did Who
he looked
did
so
this?
sad. He looked so sad watching it, understandably.
But
it's so
wasn't
weird to
it
set
at
up
the beginning of the movie?
Yeah, that's for his
Yeah.
bachelor party to Avery.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's his bachelor party.
And then they're like,
I
well,
missed
let's have these women who he used to love say everything that's wrong with him, and he has
like
to
who
watch
does
that at this
that?
party.
Whoever
See, you
made that is
brushing your
not your
teeth.
friend.
A good
Whoever
friend.
did that does not like you.
For Mike's bachelor party, what we did is we got everybody together and we played him the bachelor tape from Jerry Maguire, and that was confusing for him. He did
Yeah, I
not
didn't
know.
understand what is happening. All right, we have to cut and run. We're gonna take the quick breaks. When we come back, it's time for trivia. Movie of the year trivia. The game is simple, but the rules are hard. Or, you know what I'm trying to say. I'm gonna say a question. You buzz in by saying your name. Whoever gets it right wins a point. That's it. That's what we're doing here. Any questions? Good. Number 1. What famous line from the film was ad-libbed by Cuba Gooding Jr.?
Greg,
CG.
Greg.
show me the money.
No.
Oh.
Mindy.
But it was during that scene. Mindy.
Quan.
I don't know if it was Quan or not, but no.
I
It
feel
was-
like it was. I thought that was okay. Quan was his thing.
Here's a hint. Greg made me say it towards the beginning of our show.
Ryan,
Ryan.
I love black people.
It
Tell
was
me you love black people.
It was making Tom Cruise scream.
Okay, good one.
A very 90s moment in the movie.
Who did Cameron Crowe write this movie in mind to play Jerry?
Mindy.
Woody
Harrelson.
No, he was almost Jerry, but he wasn't who was the original Jerry. I'll give you a point for that anyway, though.
Greg,
I'm a kind person. Greg.
Brad Pitt.
No.
Ryan, Robert Redford.
No.
That would be
CG.
good.
CG.
I can't remember his name.
Oh,
It was him.
Yeah. The guy from How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Matthew McConaughey.
No, it was Tom Hanks.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, I heard that Woody Harrelson passed on it.
Yeah, but it was originally Hanks, and Cameron Crowe pushed for him, and then they were like, Woody, and Woody went, no.
I'm good.
Why did the studio not want Hanks for the role?
Greg,
Greg?
too nice.
No.
Mindy. Not hot enough.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
dead
I
That's
feel
so
like it's
mean.
really
He's not. He's gone.
He's gum.
He might be dead. Ryan. Because he can't do the physical comedy that Tom Cruise can do. That's fucking bullshit.
Yes.
I know. I don't believe what I just said.
I don't know.
He was too old. Even
Oh.
though in my head they are the same age, so I don't know.
That's
going
because they
on.
both have the same name, and that's the way you
That's
think.
confusing. All right. During what part of Jerry Maguire did a young Mike's mom turn to him and say, "That's not what real life is like"?
Greg,
Ryan.
Mindy.
Greg.
the sex scene. With
It
his
is. It's
Yeah.
the sex scene with Avery, and that was burned into my brain.
Wow.
Is saying that to your kid weirder than just watching this movie with your kid at that age?
Greg,
Greg?
I have to say, in the 90s, we watched all sorts of wild stuff with our parents all the time. We were watching Friends, Seinfeld. These shows are about sucking and fucking, and we would just all sit in the living room while they like winked and nodded at what they were talking about. So it is weirder to make the comment than it is to just sit there and watch this movie with your
It is. It would not be burned. This is one of like the foundational memories I have as a 10-year-old, and it's because she turned and said that to me, like paused it to have this talk of this is not what sex is like. But if you didn't do that, I would never have remembered that scene happening.
Plus, imagine how great your life would be if you grew up thinking that's what sex was like. And had sex like that. That would have been awesome for you.
Who scored this movie?
Ryan. Mike, you're doing it right now. Keeping score.
I love that, but no.
Greg,
Greg.
I thought Jerry Maguire scored a couple times during this movie. Right?
I'm removing points from both of you. For that
Yeah, well,
high
we still
five.
got the high five, so.
I wish. Yeah,
I was gonna make a joke saying Rod scored too, but I don't want points removed.
It was Nancy Wilson, a member of the rock band Heart,
his wife.
who was Cameron Crowe's wife.
Yeah.
What other 1996 movie of the year contender did Jerry Maguire open up against and absolutely smoke at the box office?
Greg.
Fargo?
Fargo?
No.
Ryan.
Ryan.
Mars Attacks.
It is Mars Attacks. Back
America
Indeed.
spoke.
Jerry O'Connell, who plays Cush, has a cameo in one of Mike's favorite movies, Can't Hardly Wait. What's a piece of advice his character gives?
Ryan,
Ryan.
surf or ski?
No, that's not advice. Those are options.
No, it's like surf or ski. Do one or the other.
He's talking to Mike Dexter outside in the backyard on a porch swing. And Mike Dexter's like, what do I need to know about college?
In
Where's-
Jerry Maguire. Wait.
No,
Wait,
in Can't Hardly Wait.
Oh,
These-
yeah.
The
I would-
rules
Greg,
of trivia
Greg.
here are absurd.
Greg, apply yourself and study hard.
No, it's wear shower shoes. Otherwise, you're going to get warts all over your
That's good advice.
That's good advice.
What is Jonathan Lipnicki's famous line? Movie.
Mindy,
Mindy.
did you know the human head weighs 8 pounds?
That's from this movie.
Oh, you know what? You cut out, so I didn't hear
Oh,
the question.
totally fair. But for the impression, you get a point. But what is another famous Lipnicki line from a different Lipnicki movie that is not Jerry Maguire?
I'll be fucking pissed if this is the answer, Mike. Ryan,
Ryan?
let's keep it that way, dude.
Gotta keep it that way, dude.
What movie is that?
What movie is that from? The next question.
Ryan,
Ryan?
the littlest vampire.
It's a little vampire. What is the best vampire movie for kids?
Greg,
What is what?
Greg.
CG.
Bram Stoker's Dracula is the best movie for all ages.
No, I don't think kids should watch Bram Stoker's Dracula.
I did. It worked out fine for me.
That's why you are the way you
I still
are.
enjoy vampire fiction to this day.
I remember when Greg first saw Bram Stoker's Dracula and Mike's mom ran in and said, "That's not how sex works."
Everyone's usually more disappointed than that.
All right,
Anybody else want to hazard a
CG.
guess? CG.
The new Nosferatu movie.
Hell yeah, good choice.
Ken, you guys should not be showing these to children.
So what is the
Nosferatu?
question you cut
Again,
out?
Mike, your mom runs in and goes, hey, that's not
Yes.
what sex is like.
The question was, what is the best movie with vampires for kids?
Oh.
Actually, what's fucked up is with Nosferatu, Mike's mom runs in and says, "Yes, finally,
Yeah.
that is what sex is like."
This is the proper amount of rats.
I'm
Well,
so glad she doesn't know how to listen to podcasts.
It should be. Twilight is good for kids.
Twilight's not bad.
Ryan,
Ryan?
knowing you and your lowish IQ, I'm gonna say Dracula Dead and Loving It.
It's the Monster Squad, knowing me and my lowish IQ.
Greg.
Oh, monsters.
The Transylvania movies. Those
Hotel
Hotel
Transylvania?
Hotel Transylvania series. Those are great for kids. The first couple are pretty funny.
What's another one of the did you knows Ray says to Jerry, other than that a human head weighs 8 pounds? What's another did you know?
Greg,
Greg.
did you know my neighbor has 3 dogs?
Oh no,
Oh
Yes.
gosh.
Did you
Is,
say
is
like
that a misquote?
No, that's the real quote, Mike. Nobody knows.
Ryan,
Ryan.
did you know my neighbor has 3 rabbits?
Yeah, as soon as
Oh.
Okay, we're gonna erase that one. Give me another one.
Oh, is that splitting hairs?
CG?
CG.
Doesn't he go, you know, my dad's dead
Yep.
or something? Yeah. Haha.
And then he also says that bees and dogs can smell fear.
Good one.
Name any one of the actresses, and there were many, that was up for Dorothy.
Ryan,
Ryan.
Judy Garland.
No.
Greg,
Greg.
Catherine Zeta-Jones.
No.
Mindy.
Mindy.
Nicole Kidman.
Oh, that would have been
No.
awkward.
They were married at the time.
CG?
CG.
Jennifer Aniston.
No.
But she
fine.
was in the breakup with Vince Vaughn, and
She
that,
was
that-
indeed.
That is true.
a good
Greg.
companion piece to this movie.
Patricia Arquette, Kate Beckinsale, Bridget Fonda, Winona Ryder, Marissa Tomei, Cameron Diaz, Uma Thurman, Jennifer Lopez, Mira Sorvino, Janine Garofalo, who said they were too old, and Connie Britton was the closest to almost getting the role.
Wow.
Oh.
What is Mike's favorite sports thing starring Connie Britton?
Ryan,
Ryan.
Mindy.
Mindy. Fuck you, Ryan. It goes to Mindy.
Friday Night Lights.
Yes, Friday Night Lights is the best sports thing ever.
Oh, he said it first.
What is a famous line from Friday Night Lights?
Oh, the
Greg.
movie.
a famous line.
Hey,
Greg.
just name any memorable line from Friday Night Lights.
I don't want your life.
That is Varsity Blues, you son of a bitch. Everybody gets a point but Greg.
Oh.
Greg,
No.
the inches we need are all around us.
Ryan,
Ryan.
I can't believe we're all just the replacements.
Everybody gets a point, but Ryan. Good way to give Greg a point there, Ryan. What a friend.
I can't play. I'm hurt.
Connie Britton's famous
Somebody
is
probably said
"Hey y'all" while she whinily has her hands in the air.
Oh yeah.
Or Texas Forever. Come on,
Okay.
guys. All right, that is how you play trivia.
Oh,
An
God.
absurd thing we do here. We're going to take the quiz breaks, and when we come back, more talk about Jerry Maguire. Taste buds, can there be an argument made that this movie asks the really tough questions about capitalism, the direction of the country, athletic health in the first act, only to leave us with pat movie-style answers in the third act? Let's start with capitalism. Jerry decries within the first 10 minutes of the movie, only to have his life fall apart because of it. Does it feel like the characters even read his memo?
It's a mission statement.
His mission statement?
I did love the constant, like, her being like, I was moved by your memo. Like, wow, this is really 90s office speak.
I don't think she loves him. I think she loves his memo.
Yeah, his view of the world.
100%.
Right?
And like, it makes me think, going back to talking about Dorothy and basically ignoring Mike's question completely, is that that's the younger side of her. The oldest 26-year-old, she's a great mom and blah, blah, blah. But the younger side of her is somebody who will fall in love with romantic fiction, like Twilight, but it's a memo. That's the fiction that she fell in love with and thought that he would. I think that there's a big word that we keep using about this movie every time we talk about how iconic it is or genre, and that's nuance. And I think that what we are speechified by with Jerry Maguire in the beginning becomes this whole blend of you can't go full extreme or you will be unhappy. And so what we learn is that capitalism, Rod Tidwell really needs that contract offer, but it's not the end all be all. Or if it is, it's for many reasons other than gold chains and new cars. You do have to live in this world, this cynical world.
I mean, he's risking his life for $12 million. And I think the way that's presented early in the movie is like, no, we shouldn't do stuff like that anymore. He's like, we have to care about our clients more. And there's just a weird way in which, like, thinking of how bad concussions are. Like, if you roll the clock forward on Rod Tidwell's life, like, we're talking about, like, the relationship, what is it like in 10 years? What is Rod Tidwell like in 10 years? And at one point he says, I've got 10 years left. And you think that means 10 years playing?
Till he retires.
And then he says, I've got 5 years left playing.
10 years of, like, being a human.
10 years of, yeah.
Whoa.
And, like, we didn't know how bad multiple head injuries were back then, although there was a lot of evidence it was mounting, and now we know fully how bad it is. And so he is literally, like, throwing away the last years of his life to get this $12 million. And I think that the movie that opens with a, like, question about what does capitalism cost us, by the end it's like our health, our but, like, it doesn't lean on that. It's like it presents that $12 million contract as, like, the best thing that's ever happened to him. He's emotionally, like, overwhelmed, like the money causes him to emote in a way that nothing else in the movie is able to do. Then he cries, and he cries at the sum of money. And we could say there's all the reasons why it's security, it's because it's family, and granted, all of that is totally true. But ultimately, the thing that moves him to tears is the sum of money, right? And that is echoed in a lot of other things. CG, you were just talking about, you've been talking the whole show about how it feels like we are given a sort of, like, ribbon on their romance. And yet, what echoes in our mind constantly is, wait, this guy can't be alone. And then what moves him to do this last thing is he's standing there alone, and he's like, nah, I don't want to be alone. Rod Tidwell says, I won't dance. You want me to fucking dance? I won't dance. Then one of the last things we see Rod Tidwell do is he scores his big touchdown to secure all that money, and he literally dances. He literally dances in the end zone. So there's a way in which every, like, big question that's asked in the beginning, it feels like we're given answers that feel good, but then later when we think about them, we're like, wait, in a movie that's categorized by saying, I'm going to go past the part of their relationship that a normal movie does. Now I'm asking myself, but what comes after this to Rod Tidwell, to Jerry Maguire, to the kid, right? Like, what happens next? Because it seems like...
Well, yeah, I mean, I think what everything you're saying is, like, nobody dies saying, give me my awards, let's see how much money I have. They usually pass away saying, I love you, or I'm going to miss you. Or, it's like that message. But at the same time, I think the message of capitalism isn't going to go away. but how do we have compassion? Because at the beginning of the movie, the compassion is a death sentence for Jerry Maguire. Sorry, you're out of here. It doesn't exist. Less clients, less money. No, this has to be a hard cutthroat. And the idea behind trying to figure out how living in a society with both, it was so much more cynical in the 90s and 2000s than it is now. And I think Me Too had a lot to do with that, but it's still there. I mean, and I think it's coming back. It's like these pendulum swings, like just
why would the pendulum be swinging the other way right now? What happened?
Exactly. I feel like it's coming in a big way this year specifically. That compassion is like one of the biggest crises you could have in capitalism. How dare you have compassion for people?
But like, if we talk to the average sports agent's family, they love their life, you know, they love their the spouse loves the children, but that sports agent, I bet, is barely there, you know, like just not a part of the family, and they rationalize it by, I'm out there making money, I have to earn for my family, much like Rod Tidwell does. But I bet the average person is not. I mean, if Jerry had written a memo or a mission statement that said more clients, more money, he would have been promoted to the top, you know?
Yeah.
I think it's showing how, like, they're trying to show the subtle hypocrisy of people. It's like his wife sees Rod almost, like, in her eyes, die in the end zone, and she's sobbing and like, I can't live without him. And then a few scenes later, she's like, oh my God, you're gonna play for 4 more years for $12 million.
Right.
Yes, that's awesome. So it's like, she loves her husband, but that means nothing. She, like, the money's more important. Like, it shows like the subtle subconscious hypocrisy. It's like money and being well off, and it's just always going to matter more.
I just had this thought. No, go for it. Sorry.
Oh, just real quick, I was going to say being well off, but also the respect. It's so much of it is like, pay me what I deserve so I can like feel better about myself. It's like nobody in this movie, and this is like a real key word for dudes, I think, it wants to be thought of as a loser. You know, that's how Avery attacks Jerry. And
a loser?
Who said loser? And then Rod's first fax that he gets, which is like $300,000 a year, that makes him a loser. So I do want to pay my bills, but also I demand the respect that I deserve in their heads, you know? Sorry, Minnie, go ahead.
No, I just, as we've been talking here, I realize, and I think it's going to kind of backpack on what CG was saying, is that I feel like this is the A storyline, the Cuba Jerry relationship. It had the most impact, and then the B storyline was Dorothy and their love story.
And that may have been accidental.
Right?
I think it was totally accidental.
Because they didn't know they were going to get this incredible, performance from Cuba. And the fact that they're telling each other the truths as they see it. When he says, you are so good in your personal life and you suck at being humble or grateful, so much so that the press stays away from you. You should be, look at your stats. You should be getting all the attention in the world. You should have everything you want, but yet you verbalize verbal diarrhea of how much you are deserving, and nobody wants to hear it. Start playing with your heart. So it's so interesting to take somebody else's inventory or to dissect what somebody else is doing. But if you respect the person, it lands as a seed and it might come through. So it's like this moment of like, oh, geez, he's smart enough. He's just woken up from being unconscious. And he's like, I need to milk this. And boy, did he. He'd get a flag on that today, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Even the announcers are like, oh, he's going to get a flag. Yeah.
Also, it would not add to your contract at all if that happened. Like, dancing around the field for 10 minutes would not make you a superstar.
Oh, but I think it's because they got that big touchdown and they're going to the playoffs. I think that's supposed to be...
And yeah, so Glenn Fry from the Eagles. Do you guys recognize that guy?
I did. I was like, that's the Eagles. That's Glenn Fry.
Gives the big thumbs up and says, no, I know I'm going to have to pay. But I don't know how much that would do for I will tell you guys, in the 90s, this had to be a wide receiver. It couldn't have been any other position in sports. Like, that is the superstar diva ultimate position was wide receiver. Maybe because it's Terrell Owens, but this is, or who's the cowboy guy? Michael Irvin?
Yeah.
This was the wide receiver persona.
Right.
Yeah. I do feel like there's a weird element to that too. Like so much of sports at that time was being like, these wide receivers are so mouthy and they should talk less. And Keyshawn Johnson was another one, right?
Oh, yeah,
he wrote a book called "Give Me the Damn Ball," and I feel like there's this weird message in this. It's like, hey, shut up. Like sports stars, we don't want to hear you belly aching so much. So go back to just like not saying much about these things.
Yeah. Okay.
That sound does mean it's time for speed round. Jerry Maguire, it's a non-IP titular character that introduces us to three-dimensional characters and lets us watch what they do. Is this the most 90s movie of all time, or at least the most non-2020s movie of all time?
It was great watching a movie that was made for adults. Like so far this year, I have seen in 2025, I've seen Captain America, Brave New World, and Paddington in Peru. And they just don't make them like they used to.
I really like how 90s this movie is. There's a Clarence Thomas reference.
Yeah.
There's a Hootie and the Blowfish reference that I'm sure is not going to land with a lot of people. They really leaned into the 1996 for this.
To be fair to that kid, they do look a lot alike. He does look like Hootie a little bit.
I don't think I can totally comment on this. I don't really think I'm qualified to comment on this.
What you can comment on is you see modern movies. Did this feel like out of time?
No.
Like they don't make them like this?
This was like quintessential rom-com of that time. Obviously, this one's very different, but to me, it falls into the same category of like, oh, I want to watch an old rom-com. Like, let me throw on When Harry Met Sally or like, Sleepless in Seattle. Like you throw on one of those kind of, it like transports you back.
Mm-hmm.
They don't make any movies like that now.
It's 90s because I agree. They're not making movies like that, unfortunately, not because maybe they couldn't, but they don't make money at the box office like horror films and action films now.
Marvel, I see the Marvel poster in the background, but Marvel ruined cinema because it's like all movies. It's like you need these big explosions and box office and all this editing, and it's like they don't. Not saying that the movies are bad. I think they're quite entertaining.
It has more to do with Wall Street and shareholders, I think.
But well, I think like cinema, just the things people want to view, and I also think attention spans. Like we are glued to our technology. We don't have attention spans anymore. We want things that are going boom and a monster flying by and Thor throwing a hammer and like
I have a question. One of the reasons that it's told because we're such a global market now. Somebody made the comment, and you guys might know this better, is that sometimes rom-coms don't translate to other countries.
Yeah.
As well as action or horror.
Or even comedies in general, because
yeah,
every country has different senses of humor given that, it changes constantly. So
also like what you can do in different countries in terms of like even showing a romance can be wildly different. There's some huge markets where like you can't have casual sex. And so that's going to make rom-coms tough.
But I think the biggest thing is that what we lost is DVD. And if that's where they made their money back. So if a movie only makes back its budget in the movie theater, it will crush on DVD. And Jerry Maguire did, or VHS, I'm sorry.
It was equal, if not more, to the box office. Yeah.
There's somebody made I don't know if you guys have seen this, but somebody created a Blockbuster at their home, but everything in the Blockbuster is a VHS copy of Jerry Maguire on every shelf all the way down.
Oh, that's horrible. Next question. 4 years, $11.2 million guaranteed. How does Jerry Maguire do on Rod Tidwell's last contract, considering we're dealing with 1996 NFL money?
Okay.
I don't know the answer to this.
Considering the fact he's
4%.
He's obviously a slot receiver, right, Ryan? So he's like the third receiver. His job to go across the middle. He doesn't have the body. This movie has hilarious athlete bodies. I love Cuba Gooding Jr. as a wide receiver. Sure, why not? That's what they look like, right?
If Tom Cruise can hit his head on a lamp, then Cuba Gooding Jr. can
Ryan,
be a wide receiver.
I'm going to highlight one word for you. Guaranteed.
Yes.
This dude's entire contract in 1996 is guaranteed. That means he's walking definitely with $12 million. We could quibble over the number, but that's guaranteed money, Ryan. I think you got to take it.
In the NFL, unlike any other sports league, they will sign you for $100 million a year.
Sure.
But then they'll say, oh, after game one, you're cut. We don't have to pay you anything.
Yeah, we got you injured. So now we're just going to not pay you. If you got that guaranteed money, we know we have at least that peace of mind.
Right.
That family does take $12 million home.
Maybe clean those ants off the wall with that kind of money.
But Jerry comes home with about $4 448,000. 448,000.
Yeah,
Nice.
puts a down payment on a house in 1996. I mean,
But you saw, was it Troy Aikman? All these other people are coming at him now. So
Yeah.
But
Drew-
I would think about getting a second client for sure.
Drew Bledsoe, Ryan.
Yeah.
We'll never forget the name Drew.
All right,
Bledsoe.
shut up about sports. If you could go back, would you prefer this had been the 1996 Tom Cruise movie to get 7 sequels across the next 30 years? Is that a Mission Impossible?
I would love to watch Jerry Maguire, the final
Dead Reckoning.
Dead Reckoning. Yeah.
they did a sequel.
Or they turn Jerry Maguire into like a horror genre, and
It's a different genre each time. That'd be cool.
yeah.
Jerry Maguire versus Freddy. That would be great.
They did a mockumentary type thing with and it followed Cushman, and he had to retire for Athlete's Foot, and then Tidwell,
Power shoes.
and he was helping kids with same affliction. But yeah, I saw that they did some kind of parody, and it didn't have Jerry was not in it, but there was they followed Rod Tidwell and Cushman.
Hilarious.
If you listeners, if you don't learn anything else from this particular podcast, shower shoes. Any public
Yes,
shower
now.
shower shoes. College,
wear 'em at home.
athletes, shower shoes.
Honestly, I do think there was a sequel to Jerry Maguire if he did not write the memo and went down the path that he was, and that is Magnolia. I think he is about to become Frank T.J. Mackey.
What's with the group of divorced ladies? Is it just poking fun at, like, is the movie being like, look at these shrewish women, or is there more of a point?
There's a lot of improv in that group, I could tell you that.
It does feel like that, not always in the best ways.
I think they're like the specter of like what she could
become.
right?
Yeah.
And so like, and they have lost most romance, and so you see them. They're almost like Lysistrata, like that old play where like the women and the men are warring, and so they're like in two different factions. This is almost like a faction of women. They've lost romance. They've been disappointed perpetually by men. They're trying to turn to other women, and yet at the same time, when he like wins over Dorothy, who is still in that very innocent, nascent phase, when he wins over her, that ripples out, and it kind of like ripples across the women as well, and their approval of him, or that feeling of their approving him at the end, is like, I think it's supposed to be like womanhood as a whole. Like, we love
Yeah,
you,
it melts all their hearts, and they're like, yes. It just shows that everybody wants love, and that kind of love. I mean, I guess they're there to comment and be what you. I mean, and just the idea that that's what she's living with every day.
Yes.
This constant complaining, and then she becomes them. She's like, men are the enemy, and then so as soon as you see him, and he's like, I need to see my wife. It's the first time he's ever said that. That must feel new. And then it's hello, so
I need to see my wife, Dolores. Oh shit.
she's like this.
Yeah, it looks like Renée Zellweger.
One of the most repeated words in the film, other than Quan, is loyalty. Is this film pitching that loyalty is the most important thing?
I think it might be pitching that it is important but overrated, or can't be alone. Like, it can't be loyalty alone, because I think that Jerry, for so much of the movie, says, as long as I don't leave you, we can treat each other however we want. Like, no, that's not true. There's other stuff. Loyalty's great, but other stuff must be there as well. And I think that's where the Quan comes in, of Quan is loyalty plus other things.
It's not sufficient, but it's required.
it's
right?
not enough. It's not enough, he learns, because that loyalty thing was something that he's been saying. And you see, he has this breakdown / breakthrough when he writes his mission statement. And then when Jay Moore drops him and he goes to save all of his clients, Jay Moore is being what Jerry Maguire was. He's like, come on, I'll kill for you. I'll do this. And on the other hand, Jerry is like, well, that Bob Sugar is kind of a, he doesn't verbally attack or break down Bob Sugar. He's now this kind of he's kindly trying to tell his clients why they should stay with him. He's instantly not that cutthroat guy anymore.
Right.
And then believes the loyalty of everyone around him. Bo Bridges, like, all this stuff is like the loyalty thing. And then staying with Dorothy, I married her because she was loyal. As soon as it comes out of his mouth, it should have been like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Whoops. Yeah.
And
no,
what
and
else
I
is-
want to give props to Tom Cruise because he's like from everything that I know, for people who know him and such, they're like he's one of the most intense people, intense actors, intense people, and it worked for this role. And I don't know if I could see anybody else in it. It would have been a completely different. I don't think he gets enough props for the role that he was playing, because a lot of stuff. I mean, for the performance, some of his stuff was great when he wasn't even speaking. You know.
Yeah.
Just sweating at his wedding.
And what is loyalty? Might be the question too. Like, is loyalty doing whatever anybody wants, or is loyalty calling somebody out and trying to like help them be the better version of themselves? What's being loyal to somebody?
Okay, we're
that
just gonna
rhetorical?
do 2 more questions.
Showing me the money. Yeah.
Penultimate question: would Avery, played by Kelly Preston, be one of Julie Cooper's all-time favorite movie characters?
Yeah, probably. She's like, oh man,
She's brutal.
that brings me to my cringe moment. Yeah, but no, she probably would. Gotta give
finally-
props to Kelly Preston.
What are we doing with the interludes with Jerry's old mentor, Dickie Fox? Are we supposed to give a shit about this guy?
I think he's supposed to be like God. You know? Like the voice of reason.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like he's like taught, he's like the guiding
Principal.
force of like
you-
who Jerry wants to be.
Did you know who was supposed to play that role?
Woody Harrelson.
William Wilder, Cameron Crowe's the famous film director.
The old director? Oh, wow.
Yeah,
So
and
like
that's
his
who he wanted.
mentor?
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Oh, that's cool.
I think
read that.
I think Dickie Fox is important because it's Dickie Fox to Jerry as Jerry is to Bob Sugar.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so you see the degradation of the career, that they used to be Dickie Fox, and then Jerry to Bob Sugar is what Bob Sugar is, what agents are like now. Just absolute scuzzy pieces of shit who I will say act exactly like Jay Moore. Like, this is just him, right? He's
Yes.
not even acting.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
how Jay Moore is. But I think that to look up to Dickie Fox is to say we can go back to the way sports agents were. And also it's nice little chapter breaks,
Yeah.
a very like non-professional performance by this guy. Like, I'm not saying
Yeah.
it's bad, but as soon as he's on the screen, you're like, okay, this is not someone who's accustomed to appearing on screen.
No, I thought it was the real agent it was based on, but it's not, right?
It's an actor. It's just an actor.
It's an actor? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
When he
Because
said,
the real agent does show up, but I think in a smaller.
Yeah.
when Dickie Fox said, "Oh my God," he admitted, then you could tell that he's not a real actor.
All right, we are going to take our final quick as breaks, and when we come back, let's give this thing some awards. Jerry Maguire, and this feels rare for the movies we cover here, was nominated for 5 Academy Awards, including
Nice.
Best Picture, Best Actor for Cruise, and Cuba Gooding winning Best Actor. But that doesn't matter. We're going to give it the awards that do matter. And then, of course, we'll be doing recommendations. So let's start with 90s slang. Greg, what is the most 90s slang here?
Okay. It's not even a word. It's a hand gesture. His one-time lover, now rival, from behind him to indicate that he is a loser.
Yeah.
Does it the best way you could do in the 90s was you hit him with the L. That's
I
right.
didn't-
You're a loser. Check it out. Made famous in the LEM song? The L.
Len?
Oh, Len. Yeah. This was like how you really put somebody in their place back then.
I didn't realize it was that far back.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking it was like early aughts.
And if Jerry was smart and from the 90s, he would have thrown back the W for whatever.
Or whatever.
I don't even care.
Oh, whatever, major loser.
Oh, wow, that was... I've never seen the
Yes,
full
Jerry.
combination.
Cut it out, right? Dave Coulier heads.
Mindy, what is your 90s slang?
Well, it's so funny afterwards. I was like, I couldn't count. I've said it a bunch of times. I know it wasn't, people didn't say this a lot, but I just couldn't get over is that your porty or mine? I
It
couldn't
should
get
have
over it.
caught on. It should be slang.
Yeah.
It feels like it.
In the 90s, we would say that about porty potties, but not.
Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah.
Right?
We all had one. CG, what is... I know you weren't around. That's been made clear throughout this episode.
I didn't write anything down for this one
I don't know how you
because
people
it's
talk.
all just, old,
Fair.
Because it's
old
brand new
lingo.
to you. But it's funny. I didn't notice because I didn't notice a lot of slang. I mean, maybe it was new then, but I didn't
Right.
notice a lot of familiar slang in the movie that was continually used, like, like, oh, take a chill pill or biatch or those things that I remember from the
Right.
90s.
I did like this one part where someone says, "We are so back." And it's like, well, that's not 90s slang. That's like modern slang.
I know. Or like they didn't like not or put the hand or any of those things.
There's a way in which they hit the word "so" in this that I think is very 90s, like a kind of Chandler Bing-esque hitting the "so" really hard.
Oh, okay.
All right, so Greg gives us 2 before Ryan can give us 1. Very fair. Ryan, what's yours?
Mine is Quan, which just feels like this pseudo Eastern philosophy bullshit that you just make. I don't know if it's a real thing or not, but it just everybody had their own like. Well, I have this specific word that I say, almost like what do you call those words that you say when you mantras when you're doing yoga or whatever, meditating.
Yeah.
We're gonna go the official.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
The official is the loser symbol. Though I would have given double points if anybody had "Are you Hootie?" Because even Friends had the a subplot of with one of them. They're like, "Was it Hootie?" She's like, "I think it was." We knew who Hootie was.
Yeah, I didn't see you. Did you know who that was? Hootie.
I know Hootie and the Blowfish, but I didn't like that. Yeah, I don't know what they look like.
We call him
Darius
Rucker now, and he does country.
Yeah.
And I got to
Darius
see him
Rucker
perform
would
at the
like me to
Grand
point
Ole Opry,
out
and it was great.
that he was not Hootie.
He was never Hootie.
Yeah,
he was never Hootie.
That's not how it works.
Musical moment, CG. What's the musical moment that stuck out?
I wrote it down. The Bruce Springsteen "Secret Garden."
Secret garden.
What part of the movie was this?
Don't remember.
It was used a bunch of times, but definitely running through the airport.
That, yeah.
So
It was
wrong.
like, the iconic just. I don't know. I feel like that song was played at a lot of the like cheesy, iconic rom-com-y moments.
Was that John Wayne he was running through? I thought I saw John Wayne there. John Wayne, shout out. Orange County.
I also did not know this or remember this, but in doing all my research for this movie, I learned that Secret Garden was a radio hit. And when you heard it on the radio during like musical interludes, you would hear "You Complete Me" and "You Had Me at Hello." And then the human head weighs 8 pounds in the song.
They added the lines of dialogue? Yes. That's funny.
Which I would prefer Bruce Springsteen adding it in. Just be, "Human head weighs 8 pounds."
Yeah.
Ryan, what is your musical moment?
Absolutely Secret Garden. Like,
Okay, 2 for Secret Garden. Mindy, what do you got?
I did the same thing. But
my
I
goodness.
remember the image of her when she finally goes on this date and she comes out. She's wearing that beautiful dress. And all I can remember is I had a dress like that and I wore my hair like that. And it was very much like just catapulting me back in time. But the image of them with that song on the street, and it was used. And I mean, the song came out like in '95, I think, and then they used it, and then of course it was used in the trailer, and it hit the top. I think it's his highest rated song since, or just the most recent highest rated song for him.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Nice. Greg?
I have to go with, I'm wearing the shirt, Tom Petty's "Free Fallin'." He has just had a triumphant moment. He runs out to his car, and this would happen, kids. You would be like, "I need a jam. I need to get pumped." But you'd have to like flip through the radio, and he's like, look at it. There's like a few songs that aren't quite there. He starts singing up.
Funny.
He lands on Tom Petty's.
also, he drove to Texas, so he doesn't even have his presets of the radio stations.
Yeah,
He has
very
to
important,
really
right? He's
search
got
for
to
it.
find it. And what he lands on is Tom Petty's "Free Fallin'." Man, great moment in the movie. My own personal life, I remember once I was locked in a terrible relationship with a chick. We parted ways, and I knew I was over it when I heard this song come on, and I was like, "Hey, I'm free." I've had that same Tom Petty moment, and there's nothing better than that when you realize you are totally free of something, and you get to listen to "Free Fallin'."
That was going to be mine, but the other 3 agreeing makes me think
That you're wrong.
that I'm wrong, because I was like, yeah, the "Free Falling" really stuck out for me, but fuck me and Greg.
Does it
All
help
right.
that I wore the shirt at all?
There
love
was
that.
a Bob Dylan song at the end when the credits rolled, too.
Idiot win.
Yeah.
Going down the back roads of the South.
We all know the 90s had some cringe. Ryan, what is the cringiest moment for you?
So many. When everybody gives theirs, I would like to have some runner-ups because I know we have a ton of time. The show's going short, as it always does. But I have to, and I'm sorry. Tom Cruise kissing Dorothy's neck outside of her house, and like then his head goes down for a little bit, and just to see him doing human things like we talked about, and like closing his eyes and pretending to be a straight human.
I love smooching.
Like,
Lady.
God. My husband actually goes, whoa, what? He's on the porch. What's he doing?
Yeah. Clothes came off. Things were happening. It was surprising.
his lines of like, I put my lips on you now, yes? Like just so
giving you human kisses.
Mindy, what's yours?
So this was interesting because mine was the side naked eating strawberries, as if they were trying to rip off fucking 9.5 weeks for a moment. And I have this whole backstory because in the 90s, I knew filmmakers and such who were saying, I can't get my movie distributed unless I have at least one boob shot. I don't need it, but they need it overseas. And it was really one of those things that was required. And I thought, I guarantee you the studio heads were saying, let's get more boob from Kelly Preston. Like, how much can we get between that sex scene and the strawberry thing? And Cameron Crowe's like, that's not what this movie's about. I guarantee you there was a discussion like that. So they had to do, we're going to do this scene where we see just enough that you see a little side, and that was cringy to me. So there you go.
Fair. Greg?
Mine is similar to that. I've been offended by this movie since I first saw it as a kid. But the line where what's the good one? Dorothy is like looking after him for the first time, and she's like, man, I bet the woman he's with is just so classy. And then it cuts to Kelly Preston, and she says like, never stop fucking me, never stop fucking me.
Right.
Listen.
which, Greg, is not how sex works in the real life.
That doesn't speak to whether or not that's a classy individual.
Yeah.
I'm literally super offended by that, and I haven't. And then we see her naked. Why do we see her naked? Because she's the bad one. So we can see the bad one naked. The bad one likes
She's
sex.
the villain.
And then, even though Dorothy has a kid, she's always portrayed as like so virginal. I'm not a party girl like these other girls. I have to have a kid, so I have to be an adult. Okay, that's fine. Some people like to fuck, and it's okay. It doesn't mean they're not classy. It doesn't mean they're bad people. And I don't think Cameron Crowe like understands what it's like to just like be a person that enjoys sex. Honestly, I think that like sex is something that happens to him. It's coming at him, and he's like, "Oh, I can't. I'm the director. I got to have some sex, right?" But I just like it. I feel like that creates a dichotomy in the movie that is just super duper offensive to me. There is nothing wrong with, in the throes of passion, saying something like that. That's not bad to be a sex person. You can enjoy it.
Greg is a pervert. All right, we got it. CG, what's yours?
I already mentioned this, but the second he proposed to her, I gagged. Like it was like a visceral body reaction. That just made me so uncomfortable, and I hated every moment of it. And then I guess the younger generation of me, when Cush's dad goes, "Oh, you were out with the black man."
Black fella.
Like,
Black fella.
oh yeah, I was like, oh, this
And
is from the 90s.
Based
We're
on Bo
watching
Bridges'
a movie
face,
from a while ago.
He did not
but-
want to say black fella. He wanted to say something else right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another cringe is when he's over there drunk and is like, here's what the company's going to be. And he goes in for a kiss, but before his lip just grabs her chest and then just goes,
Oh yeah,
sorry
that,
about my
that
hand.
boob grab. It was like,
I like how Mike doesn't want to end up on the cringe list, so he says chest. Grabbed her chest.
Tits. There you go, Ryan. All right. We're the official one we are going to give the outside. What the fuck was that?
Which one?
wait, you cut out. What was it?
The outside kiss. The when
Oh,
they're
yeah.
on the patio
Okay.
and then her
Valid.
blouse like comes untied and he disappears for a while. All of that.
Yeah.
He
Pound
said,
for pound
could I see your
performance.
secret garden? That's gross.
CG, pound for pound performance. So it doesn't matter how much screen time they had. Who crushed this?
I think Cuba Gooding Jr. was my favorite in the whole movie. I think I don't know. He was the most entertaining to me. I think he was the best. Also, the little kid. I don't know the actor's name, but every time he spoke, I laughed.
Yeah, that kid was a delightful goober.
Also, not many pounds, right? We're talking. I mean, I know his head is probably 8 pounds.
Probably about like 20. If his head's 8, like 20 maybe.
I think the performance of the movie for him was you don't even see his face.
Yes.
You just see his tuft of hair go behind the couch. Just go, gotta go to bed. Mom's
Mom's coming. Gotta go to bed.
He looks like Gizmo. Bye. That his little hair like bobbing back and forth. Gotta go to bed. Gotta go to bed. That's the funniest thing in the entire movie.
I gotta go.
Mindy, what's yours?
It's tough because Cuba clearly grasped that. It's such an iconic performance. And then when you watch it even more, he's just so there, and he took some chances, and you know that not all of that was written in the script. You know, it was just, you could see as an actor that he put a lot of himself in there. And so he is definitely that. But, you know, I want to give so much to Tom Cruise too, but it is Cuba. And I Jonathan Lipnicki for a, you know, an honorable mention.
Is that the kid?
That's the Gremlin one, yeah.
Okay.
But it's Cuba.
That's how Greg talks about children. Those gremlins.
Yeah, well, when you're 43 and you don't have kids, they're
what are these little goblins
they're
doing?
befuddling, yeah.
His nose.
It's okay. I really don't like kids either. Whenever a little kid walks past me, I'm like,
she's been like that since she was a kid.
I used to put my foot on like my cousin's face to push her away from me. Gonna text Natasha
like,
after this and be like, hey,
They're
we're
best
talking about
friends
how
now.
I used to push you away with my foot.
What on your face?
But that little kid, I think I would have liked to hang out with. I understand why Jerry was so enamored with him.
Yeah.
Greg, who is your pound for pound?
I'm going Regina King. I just feel like there's a lot of different feelings to this movie, and she's in a lot of different scenes. The first time he walks in and talks to her, like the first couple things they say, I'm like, oh, this is his boss. That's kind of progressive that in this movie, like this. And it's not. It's actually like the wife of one of his clients, but she just carries that across in that. Then she carries across vulnerability. Then when like his brother starts like popping off when he is still unconscious on the field, and the way she gets up and like all that anger and emotion in her face, like Regina King sends herself places.
That's one of the most realistic moments of the whole movie, where she gets up and tries to kick at him. I was like, ooh.
She gets grabbed, and that's the first time I realized how tiny she is as a person.
Yeah.
She's holding back, and she's just so small. But like, what is TP, which weird name for a character, but TP, what is he doing? He is disloyal in that moment. And like, how dare you be disloyal? I'm going to kick the shit out of you.
Yeah. She's like, just get out of the house. So like, I was blown away. And she has probably also one of the funniest lines where he's like, what should I say back to this? And she's like, how about pull your dick out of our ass?
Yeah.
That sudden like punctuation of vulgarity, very unexpected, very funny. So yeah, Regina King.
No, when Dorothy says, what am I supposed to do? And she does this thing. She says, sorry, I'm not as good as insulting. And she's like, no, you're good.
Yeah, pretty
I was like, that was good. You hit it.
That was good. That was it.
Ryan, who's yours?
I think that there are multiple three-dimensional female characters in this movie, which is just rare for movies. But I do see a lot of the actresses doing the work to help the script make them three-dimensional, but nobody does more than Regina King for her part. I absolutely think it's Marcy.
I thought you were going to say Kelly Preston, man.
I did love Kelly Preston. I mean,
I was going to say, like,
We know you did.
Well,
We know you did.
there's a moment in there where I was like, ooh, I kind of relate to her, where she's like, I don't cry. I don't have feelings. Get up, you know.
and you can see how early in their relationship, that's exactly what he wanted.
Right.
You know, she's just trying to give him everything that he wants, but suddenly he wants a bunch of different things.
Did you guys find it confusing? Because it was funny, because that's what it was when she's saying all these things and we're gonna have to figure this out and and finally he's like, this doesn't work, and my husband goes, wait, he's breaking up with her? Like, how did that quickly happen? And I was like, he just realized, like, I've changed. We're supposed to. That's why I think I didn't get the nuance when I was young, because it's subtle.
Do you think it was hard for Kelly Preston to perform as somebody who was married or engaged to a closeted Scientologist? That must have been such a weird thing for her life.
No, well, she's married. Oh, yeah. Oh, I thought you were talking about Tom.
Hang on a second.
Wait, I'm like,
All right.
they were both not. I see.
Final award, director's signature moment. Mindy, let's start with you.
Oh, well, on a whole, it's interesting. I wrote the original dialogue that creates pop culture. That's what I wrote throughout we talked about this at the beginning of the podcast, that the thing that stood out to me, there were little moments here and there, those close-ups, the close-up of, here a shot here and there. But to me, it was my ears loving to hear the dialogue that sounds so fresh, because I think back to the dialogue of Say Anything or Singles, and this delivered in the same thing, that I think that's because he is the writer. He's a writer first, and his own story of being a writer is an incredible story. Somebody should do his story, but it's the way he creates pop culture through his dialogue that still sounds fresh and still entertaining today.
Isn't Almost Famous kind of his story?
Yeah, it's his story. Yeah, he was, and here's the other one that was fascinating that I didn't know, that I read up on. He was already, by the time he was 22, he'd already worked for Rolling Stone, and he decided, he sold this idea to write a book. And he's from San Diego. At the age of 22, he changed his name and he moved in with his parents, and he enrolled in high school, and he went to high school for a year, and that's how he wrote Fast Times at Ridgemont High as a book.
Yeah.
From posing
That's
as a high school
wild.
kid.
They'd arrest you for that now.
Do you guys think I could do that right now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you could,
I think so.
honestly.
No. Yeah, right? The 70s.
Yeah, Luke Perry over here. Current
Greg,
day.
what is your director's signature moment?
I'm gonna, you know me, I love a double dip. I'm gonna double dip and say, singing with the way he's singing "Free Falling" in the car reminded me a little bit of the Tiny Dancer part of Almost Famous. Just that, like, being in a vehicle, having that like moment that carries you away, singing at the top of your lungs in that way that like only happens when you're traveling in a car or I guess a bus. Yeah, so the Free Falling for a second time.
Nice. CG?
I'm gonna go with, because watching this movie, I actually forgot this quote came from this movie, and I think it's just one of the most iconic things. You had me at hello.
Yeah.
That's definitely gotta be my top one. I think that quote specifically is just so widespread in media and other pop culture and things, and it's just iconic.
If I'm him, I'm like, but then the rest of this speech is also really good.
Don't interrupt.
Yeah,
me, please.
did you hear the rest of what
It's
I
like-
said, or did you
It tied back into that. You remember that the complete me thing? We were in the elevator. You remember
Right.
that, right?
hello wasn't the most important thing I said, so can we
I
move
say
past
hello
it?
all the time.
I'll just do it here, and it's in a living room, and that's kind of resonant, right? Okay, I just want to make sure we're hitting
Right.
I have to comment on that, because I read an interview with Renée Zellweger, who said when she read the script, she didn't understand the dialogue. And this is another comment of how he created. She's like, I don't get what you're saying. Like, you had me at hello, when now that's kind of part of our vernacular.
Yeah.
The way you had me at goodbye, you had me at yes, you had me at.
You had
And
me at
that
sushi.
was, and I guess she didn't understand it when she saw it in the script, that's what that meant. It's almost like how Matthew Perry created that. Could you do
Yes.
anymore?
Yeah.
The way characters do
Could I
these things.
be wearing any more clothes?
Right. Could I be wearing? Yeah. So I think it was one of those moments, because she didn't understand it, and that's a good point, CG.
Thanks, Mom.
Rag guy.
Yeah.
I agree with CG. It is the last moment. I think that Cameron Crowe is just proven time and time again his capability of creating these iconic scenes that, again, like we talked about earlier, seem so corny on paper, or you don't even understand them on paper. And I gotta say, You Had Me at Hello is confusing if it didn't become iconic. Like the first
Yes.
time I saw it, it was like, what does that mean?
Right.
But now we know what it means. And to have the big moment at the end of the movie was, even in 96, corny and cliche. And he just has a way to put the boombox in John Cusack's hand, or the Tiny Dancer scene like we talked about, or cast Emma Stone as a Vietnamese woman in Aloha. He knows how to. He knows how to make these iconic moments, and that whole thing was just destined for clip shows at Oscars.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
This is a dumb question. Did he actually say hello? I don't
Yes.
remember hearing him actually say hello.
He pops in and he goes, hello.
he says, hello, I'm looking for my wife.
Yeah.
But then does he say hello directly to her?
No.
No.
He was
Just
down.
in
So I think-
general.
Yeah, so I guess I read it as she's saying like he came and he did the work that he
So
went.
the second he walked in the door and
Showing
she knew
up.
he was there,
Yeah.
The fact that
everything he
showed
was
up.
going to say after
in the
didn't
lion's
matter.
den.
which they
I mean,
have.
now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, that's so dumb. But like, it is one of the most iconic moments. But it's so stupid.
You know what's an interesting thing? When I keep saying this, cynicism is so easy to do.
Yeah.
It's so easy to be cynical and say that's stupid and all this. But the truth is, we love things that are formulaic, or even if we can predict what's going to happen, or I like not being able to predict what's going to happen. But I remember in the
There's
90s,
comfort in the formulaic ones.
Yeah.
yeah,
for
and I
sure.
remember hearing, because we were all so excited about Michael Mann, and I was so excited about all these really cool movies, Tarantino movies, those are the things that really got us going. And then when he'd have this really sweet, almost formulaic thing, but I remember people around me being cynical, going, "Oh, that's stupid," or this and that. And the truth is, it's just, I think that's exactly why these movies are made.
Yeah.
To put a mirror up to, why are you so cynical? Why is everything so negative in your life? If you're a negative person who complains about everything, that's exactly what your life is going to be. So
Yeah.
that's just my
Mom's
thought.
TED Talks.
No, I remember
One way to
people
close
being
out the episode.
No.
With a little motherly advice.
I
Don't
wish we
make
could
fun
end
of
it there.
me.
No,
have to.
I say it because I appreciate them. Sometimes you give me a TED Talk when I'm like on the brink. Like, oh, you pulled me back. You just pulled me back.
Before we get out of here, what if you liked Jerry Maguire, want something like that? What else do you recommend to somebody? CG, start with you.
I was gonna say When Harry Met Sally, but then you mentioned The Breakup, Jennifer Aniston, Vince Vaughn. The Breakup, totally. I think it's just, it addresses relationships in a different way than you normally see.
Can I just say, boys specifically, if you're a man and you're like, it's so hard, what am I supposed to do? Watch The Breakup and watch.
And that's what you're not supposed to do.
Well, no, but watch the entirety of his journey. Right? He eventually learns to take care of himself, to like think of it, like to be okay with himself, and then that makes him ready in the end of the movie to be with Jennifer Aniston.
See,
I think
that's
men-
what Jerry Maguire needs
Yeah,
to
exactly.
go
That's-
through to learn to take care of himself and be by himself.
Also,
But-
boys, that movie shows the tippy top of Jennifer Aniston's butt crack. So if that's something that you want to see, watch that movie.
That's actually the only reason I'm recommending it right now.
Learn to love doing the dishes. That's my advice.
Mindy, what is your rec?
Love is an action word. I'm going, you guys went kind of relationship, but I'm going sports because I think this one was voted like number 10 of best sports comedies, but the number one best sports comedy ever is Bull Durham.
Oh my God, that's my exact movie.
Okay, sorry.
Greg's
Continue.
fucking pumped. You don't have to apologize. It's Kismet.
It's Kismet. Yes,
I
and
should-
because I mean it's much more comedic, but again, I remember watching it going, what is this? Was so new and fresh, and also Kevin Costner's famous monologue will make your knees shake. CG, I don't know if you've seen Bull Durham.
I haven't.
Okay, that's a good one.
Greg, do you have anything to add to Bull Durham?
Bull Durham is a very sex positive sports movie, and that's what I like about it.
You're right.
It's also the perfect movie to watch right now. Spring training is just barely underway. You always have to watch Bull Durham right before the baseball season starts because it gets you going. I watched this movie with my parents. It's not one to watch with your parents, though. It's about baseball. It's very funny. A lot of good jokes. It's also so much about sex and sexuality, and the movie leans on that in a very 80s way. And it is explicit and it's fun. The last like 5 minutes of the movie are a series of sex scenes. And that's so cool if you're not watching with your 70-plus-year-old parents and you're all trying to comment on anything other than Kevin Costner absolutely railing Susan Sarandon on the kitchen table.
And
All
then
I can say-
Mike's mom comes in and says, "Hey, that's
not what
what
it's
sex
like."
is like."
And all I have to say about that is, oh my.
Yes. Yeah. If you ever like have loved Susan Sarandon, or maybe more importantly, been like, I've never gotten why people are so head over heels about Susan Sarandon.
Yeah.
Watch this movie. If it doesn't teach you to love baseball, it will teach you to love Susan Sarandon.
Isn't that what's important? Ryan, what's your rec?
I'm going to go with 1957's. So this is a little bit before CG was born. Sweet Smell of Success, which is
The fuck is that?
Let me tell you, Mike. Thanks for
Okay,
asking.
thanks.
Is that the next thing you were going to say?
This is a movie with Tony Curtis and Burt Lancaster. Burt Lancaster plays a reporter, and Tony Curtis is this fucking sleazeball piece of shit. Everyone's a piece of shit in this movie, but this movie is as if the mission statement never got written. And the way that these people talk to each other, and it's also all about the script. They say the nastiest things to each other. It's hilarious, but it's 1957 hilarious. So everything is like coded and just weird turns of phrases. But all that cynicism that Jerry Maguire is trying to get rid of is then put into this movie from 40 years before it.
Nice.
Sweet Smell of Success. Amazing movie.
I do have to mention that I did read, and I didn't know this, that the inspiration for this film for Cameron was The Apartment with Jack Lemmon.
Oh, wow.
Another fucking great movie.
Yeah.
Another one I haven't seen.
Oh,
Dude.
The Apartment's so good.
It'll make you a major Jack Lemmon fan.
When it comes to Jack Lemmon, you'll be like, oh my.
Oh my.
Mine is Moneyball. It's a rare movie that can make me care about sports and about the machinations behind sport, and I think Moneyball brought out the same feeling in me.
Dope.
It does.
Moneyball's a near perfect movie.
That is, I can watch that movie over and over and over again. I love it because it's
So
Brad
good.
Pitt
Philip Seymour Hoffman in a baseball uniform.
In a baseball uniform?
and Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill.
Oh, man. Chris
All
Pratt
right.
is in it, right?
Here's
That's
what
the
we've all been
all-star
waiting.
cast.
Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to read it. Then we're going to talk about how Jerry Maguire might do in the bracket, and then we're going to get the fuck out of here.
Yay.
I'm aware that I haven't hosted in a long time, so this is a long appreciate the listeners, and so appreciate Mindy and CG. Thank you for spending some time with us to do this.
Thank you.
All right. Coming in at 40 points, it's Greg.
Okay.
He made that face like he was like, that's mine.
Yeah.
It's CG,
Woo!
How many points?
42.
Okay.
43 points is Ryan.
Pretty good, Ryan.
You're
You got
playing
the
favorites right now.
Nope. I don't track this at all during the show. And coming in at my best friend, which means she will have to give me blueberry muffins every day for the next week, Melinda Clarke at 40.
CG's right.
I think you're playing favorites.
All
You know
I can
what?
do is
It's
show you
fine.
my notes.
I won last time, but with an additional 300 points from Ryan. So you know what? It's fine.
Talk
Oh,
about playing favorites.
So how do you do this? You just keep points as we're talking?
I just do hash marks. If look, oh, that's a fun joke. That's a good comment. I'm just like,
Okay.
Good
Because I
point.
was
So-
like, I didn't do trivia at all.
oh no, yeah, that really did hurt you. But
Like-
that's
say somebody had actually been in movies, they might get a couple extra points for
Yeah.
that, right? It's a movie podcast. That's
Right.
gotta help
Just,
you at
they
least a
they
little
start
bit,
off
though.
with maybe like 5 to 10 points
We
before
also-
the game even begins.
Okay.
Plus, this is our first episode that's SpawnCon, in that Mindy brought up Spawn.
Spawn.
So, yeah.
yeah.
Ah!
That did. I do love Spawn.
Shout
Saw
out to
that
John
in theaters.
Leguizamo.
Nice.
All right. How's Jerry Maguire going to do in the bracket? How do we think? Could this win the whole thing, being the most 1996 movie of the year?
It might be the most 1996. I think that this movie's flaws are pluses. I think that when it's bad, it's great. I fucking love this movie. I hope it goes all the way.
Oh, cool. Good to know. Yeah. It's always fun with
I
you
feel
guys.
good about it. I think it's I know nothing about, not
The rest
really
of
much
them?
about what movies in the 90s were totally like, but it's a good movie, so I have faith in it.
What was the other one we asked to do, and it was already. Do you
Train
remember?
spotting?
No,
No.
Fargo?
no.
No.
We'll figure it
I thought it
out.
was one of
Was
those.
it
Fargo will
Indiana
be
Jones or something?
That was
no,
last time.
no, Indiana Jones is what we did last time.
Yeah.
Fargo,
I'll
I think,
think-
is its biggest competition. But I agree with Ryan's sentiment, which is that like the things that are bad about this movie, I think it almost might have done intentionally to
Mhm.
kind of like set you up for its final messages. And I think that there's still a lot to think about in terms of it, and that's sort of like a movie that you chew on for a while. That always does really well with us. So I think
Right.
that it's got a really good chance.
We wanted to do Swingers.
Oh, that's what it was. Swingers. Yes.
This
So-
movie is better than Swing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the next time Tom Cruise did a quote romantic movie, why did he go from Jerry Maguire to Eyes Wide Shut?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good question.
He was in another Cameron Crowe movie that we didn't even mention. A
Vanilla Sky.
fascinating little movie called
Oh,
Vanilla Sky.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
So I would love to cover that next time.
Oh,
We'll
yeah.
see.
CG has never seen that one.
A
I don't
note
think.
for Mike.
Okay, I'll keep track of that, guys. I know you guys shuttered your podcast, but do you have anything to plug? Check out the keep doing CG.
It's so funny. He's in the here. You're in a different state today, aren't you? I guess what you said was, we finished
Anything
the
to
podcast?
plug. You have
Yeah.
anything to
Anything
plug.
to plug.
Yeah.
My internet is dying, and I apologize.
No, that's okay. No, I'm doing a couple episodes. I joined the cast of SWAT on CBS. I'm playing a mother to one of the SWAT guys, but
Nice.
other than that, we're all kind of waiting for Hollywood to kind of get back in gear. And CG is moved to Chicago, and it was time for us to kind of take a break from the podcast. And I think we'd done the OC long enough, basically.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys
no,
want
I
to
got
co-host
nothing.
about SWAT, let me know and I will do those episodes with you.
Okay.
CG, what were you saying?
I got nothing.
All right.
I mean, if you want to follow me on my TikTok, do it, but I don't post on it. So
Yeah, well, you're going to start.
yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. No, it's a nice transition. We finished. It was about 4 years of podcasting, and at some point when you realize it's time to do something else and focus back on the acting career.
Can that happen,
that's-
Ryan?
No,
Okay.
never. We will never stop podcasting.
We are 15 years in. We're never dying.
You will die in the middle of a podcast.
If you want to hear CG at her best, search for Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom
Yes.
on Apple Podcasts, and you will find her
I
previous show.
thought about that. Me saying that was my favorite Indiana Jones movie was a lie.
That was an insane thing to say.
I thought about it the day after, honestly, minutes after we finished, and I was like, why did I say that? Because I just blatantly fucking lied to you guys.
Oh, wow. We're going to have to issue a correction.
I think it had a memory. I mean, you love horror films. You love
But thinking, I think the movie's awesome, but thinking about it afterwards, I was like, that's not my favorite.
which one
That's
is?
not
Clear up
the
the record.
third one.
Last Crusade.
Oh, with Sean Connery.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love
That's why.
Yeah, what's the cup?
it.
Holy
No.
Grail?
Holy Grail.
I
That's-
know we did SpawnCon, but now we're doing SeanCon? This is
Sean
getting out of
Connery.
control.
Sean gone.
Ryan, there's no more point.
There's no more point.
Coming up this season, there's Fargo, there's That Thing You Do, there's ID4, and so much more. Until then, keep watching those movies.